What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Ino obsessed with Naruto? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Naruto was walking through the streets of Konoha. It was about time for dinner and he was headed to his favorite place to eat, Ichiraku Ramen. He had been training with Ebisu-sensei for the past 3 weeks preparing for the finals of the Chunin exams. Ebisu-sensei had told him earlier today that there was no more he could teach him and that he would have to finish his training on his own or find someone else that could teach him more. As he was walking, he was too lost in thought of finishing his training that he failed to notice the young Kunoichi that rounded the corner until he walked right into her, knocking her straight to the ground. "Why don't you watch where you are going next time?" said the female ninja as she dusted herself off, not bothering to look at who knocked her down. Naruto looked down at who he had ran into and first noticed the blonde hair of his longtime friend Ino Yamanaka. Next he noticed that she wasn't wearing her normal ninja outfit but instead was dressed in a dark purple skirt with matching blouse, and she had her hair pulled back into a ponytail. "I'm sorry Ino. I must have zoned out and didn't notice you," Naruto said as he reached out his hand to help her up. "What are you dressed up for? Got a date or something?" Naruto chuckled. "No, I don't have a date, you idiot. I just got done helping mom and dad at the flower shop and decided to get something to eat, and since I didn't know where I would end up I wanted to look my best," explained Ino as she finished dusting herself off. "Well, I was headed to get ramen before heading home. You want to come?" asked Naruto. "Is that all you ever eat?" replied Ino. "No, not all the time. I have been training a lot with Ebisu-sensei the last 3 weeks for the finals and I haven't had much time for ramen or anything else. So how about it? You want to come with me and we can catch up on what has happened in the last few weeks?" asked Naruto. "Sure, it will be nice to sit and talk with a friend," said Ino as they started towards Ichiraku's ramen. Approximately 96 tilde. A little while later they were sitting in the restaurant enjoying their ramen. They had sat there eating in silence for about 10 minutes not knowing what to talk about. It was Naruto who finally broke the silence. "So how are things going back at the flower shop?" Naruto asked her, trying to get a conversation going between the two of them. "It has been pretty slow and boring last few weeks. Not to mention extremely quiet without your loud mouth being gone. So what you're saying is that you missed me all this time?" replied Naruto with his signature grin. "No, what I said is that it has been quiet. I never said if it was a good or bad thing," Ino said. "I feel bad leaving all the work to you and her mom. I just have been training a lot and I am just glad they let me take this time off to train. I was talking to mom yesterday and she said not to worry about it. That it was the least they could do since you saved me from the bullies years ago. This was their way of saying thanks," replied Ino. Flashback. Naruto was on his way home. It was late evening and he was tired from running away from the mob that tried to beat him every day. He was walking back the park when he heard a girl scream. Naruto rushed toward the direction he heard the scream to find a young blonde girl no older than him, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She was surrounded by 3 older boys, maybe 10 or 11, and they were throwing things at her and kicking her, all while laughing about it. Naruto knew he had to do something in order to help the young girl. He rushed at the boy in the middle from behind and knocked him to the ground. He picked himself up, fuming with anger as he looked for who knocked him down. The 3 boys' eyes widened in horror as they saw who it was. Unbeknown to Naruto, his eyes were now slited and a very deep shade of red. The boys were frozen with fear as Naruto made his way toward them. "Stay away from us, you demon brat," yelled one of the boys. "Get out of here and don't you ever come near this girl again," Naruto replied as he kept moving closer. "You don't tell us what to do, you piece of garbage," another boy called out. Naruto was inches from the boy he had previously knocked down. Before the boy knew what was going on, Naruto had him by the throat, lifting him a few inches off the ground. The boy's eyes were as big as dinner plates. "I said to get lost and never bother her again," Naruto said as he threw the boy a few feet to the side. They boys picked up their friend and took off at a very fast pace. Naruto walked over to the young girl and knelt beside her. He looked her over to see if she was bleeding. She looked fine except for a few bruises and a scarp across her arm from trying to protect herself. "I'm Naruto. Are you okay?" he asked as was looking her over. "Yes, I'm okay thanks to you. My name is Ino. How far away do you live?" Naruto asked her. "Just down that street, about half a mile." Why do you ask? Naruto reached down and picked her up bridal style with one arm around her waist and the other under her legs. You don't need to be walking home alone, so let me take you, okay? He told her as he took off up the street. A few minutes later, Ino pointed out which house was hers. Not letting her down, he walked up to the door and knocked. Ino's mom answered the door and her eyes went wide. She snatched Ino from Naruto's arms and started yelling for her husband, Inoichi. Inoichi and his wife both knew of Naruto and the demon he had sealed in him. They had never had any problems out of him, but seeing him with their daughter in the state she was in, they went into protective mode. They started to chase him away, but Ino jumped out of her mother's arms and stood in front of Naruto with her arms spread wide. You can't hurt him or chase him away, shouted Ino at her parents. He hurt you. We can and will chase him away, responded her mother. He didn't hurt me, he saved me, Ino said with tears in her eyes as she turned and wrapped her arms around Naruto. What do you mean he saved you? Asked Inoichi. I was being chased by some bullies and they cornered me and were kicking me and throwing things at me. I started screaming and Naruto came and saved me. So you can't chase him away, Ino replied through sobs. Okay Ino, we are sorry, we were just worried is all. Do you need a place to stay for the night, Naruto? Asked Inoichi. No sir. I have a place to stay, thank you though, responded Naruto. Well, you saved our daughter, so you are always welcome here. Say good night Ino. Good night Naruto, Ino said as she gave him a small kiss on the cheek before running inside. Good night Ino, Naruto said as he placed his hand on the spot he had just been kissed as he headed home. End flashback. Naruto, you okay? Asked Ino. Yeah, I'm okay. Just thinking about the day I first met you, he replied as he placed his hand on his cheek. Ino knew then what he was thinking about and blushed a little. They had been best friends since that day and they were hanging out with each other every chance they got. Deciding to change the subject, she asked him how his training was going. He placed the money for their meal on the table as he offered her his arm, which she took. It is going pretty well. I just need a little more training on my wind nature and I will be ready. Wait, you have a wind affinity? Asked Ino. Yeah, but I don't know anyone else who does and that is why my training isn't complete yet, replied Naruto with a sad look on his face. Well, I know someone who has a wind affinity as well. Really, who? It will help if I can get them to train me, replied a now upbeat Naruto. Meet me at training ground 10 in the morning at 9 o'clock. Then you will see who I am talking about, she replied with a devilish grin because she knew that it was killing Naruto as usual. They walked up to the front door and stood there talking for a few minutes. On the other side of the door watching through the window and smiling was Ino's parents. Well, I better get going. I will see you in the morning Ino, he told her. Alright, good night Naruto. Naruto took a step forward and gave her a kiss on the cheek which caused her to blush about 10 different shades of red in less than a second. Good night Ino, and with that he shined away. Ino walked in the house and went straight to her room, not noticing her smiling parents. Do you think something is going on with those two? Asked Seiko Yamanaka, Ino's mother. No, not yet anyways, but I think Ino is starting to get feelings for a certain blonde knucklehead, laughed Inoichi. What about the Kyuubi? Naruto could hurt her and not even realize what he did, responded a worried Seiko. If I know Naruto, he won't let anything happen to his friends. And if Ino ends up becoming more than his friend down the road, that would go double for her. It's late, let's head to bed, responded Inoichi. Approximately 96 tilde. Ino lay in bed with her face still blood red from the kiss on her cheek. Good night Naruto, she thought as she drifted off to sleep. Naruto hadn't slept much that night, thinking about why he gave Ino that kiss or who she had in mind to help him with his wind training. He had grabbed breakfast at Ichiraku's and then headed to training ground 10. He was very curious to who it could be since he didn't know anyone else with a wind affinity. He was jumping from tree to tree heading towards the training grounds when he ran into Shikamaru and Choji. Hey guys, what's up? Naruto asked as he caught up with his two friends. What are you doing out this way Naruto? Choji asked in between bites of chips. Ino told me to meet her at training ground 10 this morning because she knows someone who could help me with my training. Well, that's our team's training ground, so why don't you just stick with us? Choji asked. Sure, sounds like a plan, Naruto replied in an excited voice. Man, this is such a drag. Why are blondes so loud? Shikamaru thought to himself as they continued on their way. A little while later, they made it to the training grounds to see Ino standing with Asuma-sensei. They landed at the edge of the clearing as Naruto broke off in a run, eager to meet this mystery person. "So where is this person who can help with my training, Ino?" Naruto asked in a hyper-excited tone. "He's right behind me," Ino replied as she pointed over her shoulder to Asuma. "Wait, you have a wind affinity as well, Asuma-sensei?" asked a surprised Naruto. "Yep, and Ino tells me that you need help with your training." "How can I be of help?" asked Asuma as he took a puff from his cigar. "Well, I can already slice a leaf with the wind chakra, and I was just wondering if here were any further steps you can teach me?" Naruto asked, bowing to Asuma. Asuma thought to himself before pulling out two of his trench knives and handed them to Naruto. "Do you know what those are?" Aren't they just kunai?" asked a dumbfounded Naruto, looking over both knives. Ino face palmed and a tick formed on her head. "Don't you know anything, Naruto? Those are trench knives, also known as chakra blades," Ino said, trying her hardest not to be angry with the blonde knucklehead. "What are chakra blades?" Naruto asked. Asuma took one of the blades and started pumping chakra into it. The knife began to glow a light blue as Naruto watched with his eyes growing large. Chakra blades let you infuse your own chakra into the blade to add to the damage. Asuma walked over to a boulder and raised the blade above it. He then proceeded to bring the blade down in a swift motion. He then turned to Naruto as the boulder split in half. "Whoa, that is amazing, Asuma-sensei." Naruto, completely surprised at the strength of the chakra-infused blade. "I will make a deal with you. Since I can't really help your chakra control or training very much, if you can master infusing your chakra into those blades within 3 hours, you can have them. Don't worry, I have a few more sets at home," Asuma said, getting a grin from Naruto that could rival Lee or Guy. "Alright, I can do it," Naruto said, taking the knife back from Asuma. "Shadow Cone Jutsu," Naruto exclaimed as 20 more Narutos appeared, each with their own set of blades. "What's with the clones?" asked Ino. "They're helping me train. With shadow clones, when I dispel them, all the knowledge that the clone received is gave back to the caster. So with having clones help train, I am doing a lot more work in less the time," explained Naruto as he went off to train. "That is one gifted kid," stated Asuma. "He sure is," sighed Ino with a slight blush that didn't go unnoticed by her sensei. Approximately 96 tilde. Almost 3 hours later, Naruto was lying in the shade of a tree with the chakra blades in his hand. He had been able to infuse his chakra into the blades, and so Asuma kept good on his word. Naruto was tired from his training and didn't notice Ino as she sat down against the tree next to him. "So you were able to do it, huh?" Ino chuckled as Naruto jumped, now realizing she was there. "God, Ino, why don't you give me a heart attack next time?" "And yeah, I was able to do it," replied Naruto as he sat down next to her with his heartbeat going back to normal. "So Naruto, I was wondering if I could ask you a question, if you don't mind?" Ino asked a bit sheepishly. "Sure, what is it?" replied Naruto, noticing the light change in color of Ino's cheek. "Last night when you walked me home, why did you kiss my cheek?" she asked, looking into his deep blue eyes. Well, thinking about how you kissed me those years back, I thought that since I never showed any thanks or something, that was the best way to do it," responded Naruto, rubbing the back of his head. While he was explaining, he failed to notice Ino move closer till her hand brushed his. Noticing how close she was made him blush, and he stood up quickly, saying, "I got to go work on some more training. I will see you later, Ino," and with that he was gone, leaving a slightly irritated Kunoichi. Approximately 96 tilde. Naruto was at the hot springs working on his water walking jutsu after the incident with Ino. He was standing there on the water when he heard some laughing. He made his way to the source of the sound to find an older man with waist-length white hair, green shirt and pants covered by a red vest. Naruto knew what the old man was up to and didn't like it. "Why don't you stop your peeping, you old pervert?" Naruto yelled, causing the women on the other side of the wall to run from Jiraiya. "Thanks a lot, kid, you just ruined my research," replied Jiraiya as he turned around. When Jiraiya saw Naruto, he was shocked. He looked just like the kid's father, Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. Minato had been one of Jiraiya's best students. He had also been his one and only son. "He looks just like you, my boy. Although I don't think he is ready to find out just yet." Jiraiya thought to himself. "I don't care if your research is ruined or not, you don't go peeping around here." Naruto said with anger in his voice. What if I make it up to you, kid? You look like a strong ninja, so how about I teach you a summoning jutsu? Naruto's eyes lit up at hearing this and decided to let him off the hook this time. Naruto nodded his head in agreement. Approximately 96 tilde. It had been almost a week since Naruto started training with the pervy sage. He now had a contract with the toads and could summon them when needed. He had been avoiding Ino since that awkward moment they shared. But now there was no getting around. Seiko knew he had the day off from training since it was the day before the finals, so she asked him to work since he had been off for a month now. He made it to the Yamanaka flower shop and hoped Ino had the day off. As he walked in, he knew he was in for a long day as he saw Ino sitting behind the counter mixing things in a bowl. He decided to mend things with his best friend and get things back to normal. "Hey Ino," was all Naruto could say as he sat down next to her watching her work. "Hey Naruto," she replied, not bothering to look up from what she was doing. "Haven't seen you around in a while." "Sorry, I've been training with Jiraiya-sensei. Can I tell you something, Ino?" Naruto asked. "Sure, what is it? I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't realize how close we were and then I just ran off. I hope I didn't make you feel uncomfortable." Naruto replied with a sheepish grin. "It's fine really. I didn't notice the closeness either and I am just as much at fault. So really, it's okay." Ino replied, going back to her mixings. "What are you working on?" "I thought of using some of the flowers around the shop as weapons," she said with a smile. Naruto couldn't help but notice her smile and how cute she looked when she smiled. As she got up to gather more flowers, his eyes looked her up and down, taking in every inch of her figure. From her slender legs, up to her stomach, which was opened by the gap in her ninja outfit, to her arms up to her heavenly face. He shook his head, trying to clear it of the thoughts he was having. Why am I having these thoughts about Ino and why I am looking at her this way? I will have to talk to someone who knows what is going on. He was snapped out of his thoughts when Ino hit him on the arm. "Are you listening to me, Naruto?" Ino asked, a little annoyed. "Sorry Ino, I zoned out for a minute." "What were you saying?" Naruto responded, never making eye contact. "I said I am planning on using toxic flowers as a weapon. I never really thought about it before, but I want to try and see if it works," Ino said with a smile on her face. "So what have you came up with so far?" Naruto asked. "Well, so far I have came up with paper bombs, poison-laced senbon and kunai, and even poison smoke bombs. Some cause paralysis like the moonseed plant, while others can cause poison like the wolf's bane or larkspur flower, while others cause hallucinations like the angel's trumpet. Some plants are even used for healing," she explained. The time flew by while the two young ninjas spent their time either helping customers or mixing together flowers and plants. Naruto realized how later it was and decided that he should head home for the night. As he started to leave, he was stopped by Ino's voice. "Hey Naruto, what time does the exam start tomorrow?" she asked as he turned to her. "A little after noon tomorrow. Why?" he asked, confused. "'Cause I am taking you shopping first thing in the morning. You don't need to be dressed in orange all the time," she said with a snicker as she saw his saddened expression. "What's wrong with orange? I don't see why I need a different outfit. I'm fine with this one," he replied, pouting. "Please Naruto, it would make me so happy," she with a pout and puppy dog eyes. Naruto knew he was beaten and he couldn't say no to Ino. "Fine, you win. I will meet you here about 8 o'clock, okay?" "Yay, thanks Naruto," squealed Ino. "Good night Naruto." "Good night Ino." With that he left the flower shop on his way home. He knew he had a rough day tomorrow between Ino and his fight with Neji. He may end up dead tomorrow. "What did I get myself into?" He thought, walking the streets to his home. Naruto lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. He had gotten home about an hour ago and decided that after a quick bite to eat and a shower he needed to get rest for tomorrow. Although he hoped to get some sleep, it seems sleep was avoiding him. So he got up and got dressed and decided to go for a late night stroll to try and clear his head. He thought a nice quiet, lonely walk would be what he needed to get some rest. Boy did Kami have other plans for him. Naruto had left his apartment around midnight and had been roaming around aimlessly for about an hour now. His thoughts were going back and forth from his fight later that day to what was going on between him and Ino, and what was with these weird feelings he was having for her. According to Iruka-sensei, it was normal for a boy his age to be experiencing these things. Flashback. Naruto had just left Ino and the flower shop. He needed someone to talk to about the weird feelings he had just a while ago. He headed for the one person he thought might be able to help him, Iruka-sensei. Naruto found his apartment and walked up and knocked on the door. A few seconds later and Iruka answered, surprised to see his old student at his house. "Evening, Naruto. Can I help you with something?" asked a confused Iruka. "I need to talk to you about something if you have a few minutes." Naruto responded. Iruka invited him in and got the two of them something to drink. Iruka was worried at first that something bad might have happened. When Naruto told him about the feelings he had while around Ino, he relaxed knowing what was going on, especially since the poor kid had never had parents to give him the talk about growing up. After Iruka explained that these feelings were part of growing up and that it was normal to feel this way around a girl, Naruto told him he needed time to think and excused himself. Flashback end. Naruto was lost in thought and hadn't realized he had walked to the park. Little did he know that someone else was also having trouble sleeping right now and had made their way to the park as well. Approximately 96 tilde. Seiko Yamanaka had been walking by the back of the shop when she heard Naruto and Ino talking. After listening to them talk and then say goodbye to each other, she knew it was time to give Ino the talk. Ino and her mom went home and Seiko decided not to wait any longer. She gave Ino the same talk that Naruto was receiving just across town. It was late when mother and daughter finished talking, so Ino decided to go to bed. However, after a few hours of tossing and turning, she decided to clear her head with a late-night stroll. She left a note for her parents just in case they noticed her missing. She decided to go to the park unaware that a blonde knucklehead was headed her way. Approximately 96 tilde. Naruto was still deep in thought when he heard a familiar voice. "Hey Naruto, what are you doing out this late?" asked a puzzled Ino. "Couldn't sleep, so I decided to go for a walk and clear my head. Must have zoned out and ended up here. What about you?" asked Naruto as he sat down next to her. "Pretty much the same thing as you," Ino said with grin. Naruto wanted to talk to her about what had been going on between the two of them but didn't know how. So he decided to take her to a place where everything seemed to come to him a lot easier. "Wanna see something cool?" asked Naruto. "Sure, why not?" responded Ino, wondering what he could be talking about this late at night. Naruto stood up and held out his hand for Ino. He pulled her up and stated to start walking, not noticing he still had a hold of her hand or the blush that had spread across her face at this. They walked in silence for about 20 minutes and came to a stop under Hokage Mountain. "What are we doing here?" asked Ino. "You'll see," was all he responded as he scooped her up and sunshined them to the top of the fourth Hokage's head where he placed her back on her feet. "So now what?" Ino asked, completely confused. "Look up," Naruto replied as he too looked at the sky. Ino's eyes went wide with awe. Above her was the wide-open clear night sky. She could see stars going for miles in each direction. The moon was directly in the middle of the sky right above them. Naruto looked down from the sky to be caught by what he thought was the most heavenly sight on earth. The moon made what he could see of her crystal blue eyes sparkle like one of the stars in the sky above. The moon made her skin seem as if it were glowing. He thought she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Naruto sat down and Ino soon followed. "This place is amazing, Naruto," Ino said, going back and forth from looking at the sky to looking at Naruto. "You should see it at sunset then. I come here quite a lot when I need to clear my head or just have time to myself." "Can I ask you a question, Ino?" Naruto asked, looking out over the village. "Sure, go for it. Have you ever had a boyfriend or gotten anywhere with a boy?" Naruto asked, never meeting her gaze. "Maybe I have or maybe I haven't," Ino replied, deciding to tease him a bit. "Oh, well, which is it? I'm just curious is all," Naruto asked with a slight frown covering his face. Ino noticed the frown but didn't pay it much attention. "Why do you ask, Naruto?" "Curious as to I have been with?" she replied with a small grin. "No, nothing like that. I was just wondering, but it's fine. You don't have to tell me," Naruto said as he stood up to leave. Ino didn't know why, but she felt like her heart was starting to break at seeing Naruto start to leave. Before he managed to move, she reached out and grabbed his head. "Please stay, Naruto. I didn't mean to upset you. No, I have never had a boyfriend before," she tells him as she pulls him back on next to her. "Have you ever kissed a boy?" he asks. "No," was her simple reply. "Have you ever hugged a boy?" "No." "What about ever holding someone else's hand?" Again, no was her answer. As Naruto was asking her questions, both their hands came together as their fingers started to interlock with one another's. Neither one knew what the feeling was exactly, but to them at this exact moment it didn't matter, it just felt right. They sat talking and holding hands, not wanting to let go for a while longer when Naruto looked at his watch and noticed that it was now 3 in the morning. They stood and he told her that he would walk her home since he didn't want her walking home at this time of night alone. This made Ino blush as she knew that he cared enough to keep her safe. A while later they were standing in front of Ino's house saying their goodbyes. "I will see you here in a little bit, okay?" he told her as he started to leave. Ino rushed forward and gave Naruto a hug. She didn't know why she did, but she didn't care. It felt right and that was all that mattered. At first he was surprised, but he soon got over it and returned the embrace. They stood like that for a few minutes before Ino pulled away. "Remember, be here at 8, okay? Good night, Naruto." "Don't worry, I'll be here." "Good night, Ino." With that, Naruto turned and left. They both lay in beds with smiles on their faces. Neither knew what happened that night and neither cared. They just hoped for more moments like that with each other. With a smile on their faces and the thought of each other on their mind, they drifted off into sleep waiting for their next moments together. Naruto was up early that morning despite only having a few hours of sleep. He was full of energy and looking forward to spending more time with Ino. He didn't know why, but she was becoming more and more important to him the last few days. There were few people who were important to him. These were the old man third Hokage, Iruka-sensei, Kakashi-sensei, and now Ino and her parents. Everyone else seemed to hate him and he had no idea why. He got up out of bed early and grabbed a shower and a quick bite before rushing out the door to Ino's place. He was wondering what she had planned for the 4 hours before the finals began. He made it to her house with just a few minutes to spar, which he was thankful for. He had heard from Choji and Shikamaru that Ino is one person you don't want to see angry. She was standing outside waiting for him. "Morning, Ino. So, where are we going first?" asked Naruto, a bit worried at the answer as they began walking. "I told you, Naruto, we have got to get you some clothes and get you out of that orange." Ino responded. "You know, I don't see what is so wrong with orange. I like it. Nothing is wrong with orange. I just think you need some other choices in color and wear. Plus you said you would do this for me." Ino replied, putting on the puppy dog eyes. "Alright, fine, you win. So which store are we going to?" Naruto asked, knowing it was useless to argue with those eyes. He had lost arguments plenty of time before because of those eyes of hers. "This one," Ino said, stopping in front of a store and dragging Naruto inside. "Let's see what we can find," Ino told him as she started looking for different outfits. It took longer than either Naruto or Ino expected. It was 11 o'clock when they had found a few outfits for him to wear. The current one he had on was the most liked by him. He had a dark blue jacket over top and dark sunset-like orange shirt. He was thankful for at least a little orange-black cargo pants with black combat boots. He was gonna add a few of his own ideas to the outfit later before the exams. As Ino started to pay for his clothes, he stopped her and reached for his frog wallet that he kept money in. Ino was surprised at how much he had in the small wallet. Naruto paid for his clothes and they headed home. "Naruto, can I ask you a question?" "You don't have to answer if you don't want to," Ino asked, trying to learn more about the boy she had these strange feelings for. "Yeah, go ahead. I will answer the best I can," he said with his trademark grin. "How do you have so much money?" His smile immediately went to a frown. Ino noticed and knew she had upset him. "It's alright, you don't have to answer," Ino said. "No, it's alright. The old man told me that someone had saved money for me since before I was born. He said he couldn't tell me who, but that all the money I had came from him or her. That's all I really know. The old man gives me a little each month and says I can do as I please with it." Naruto explained. "How much do you usually get?" "About 1,000 yen a month." Ino's eyes went wide at hearing this. She couldn't believe that Naruto thought that was just a small amount. She was gonna ask more, but Naruto snapped her out of her thoughts in shock. "I will see you at the arena. I have a few things I had to do before they start." "Okay, I'll meet you at the arena then. See ya later, Naruto." A little while later, Naruto was back in his apartment. He had learned the basics of using seals from Jiraiya. He asked why he got the hang of the seals so easily, but Jiraiya told him it had to be luck. He wrapped a few bandages around his right arm on his jacket and his right pant leg. He left his left arm open for now, but he had a small idea of what he was going to put there. After sealing his kunai, shuriken and chakra blades in the seals, he placed a few secret weapons in his pouch on the back of his pants that he thought a certain blonde kunoichi would find interesting. With that done, he took off for the arena that was holding the finals of the Chunin exams. Approximately 96 tilde. Naruto made it to the arena about half an hour later. He looked around for Ino but couldn't seem to find her. He decided to head inside to see if she was roaming around anywhere. He found her at the top of the stands talking to Sakura and Choji. "Hey guys," Naruto called out as he ran to join them. At hearing Naruto call out to them, they all turned to see their blonde knuckle-headed teammate and friend running to join them. Ino noticed how the shirt was a bit tight and she could make out the muscles he had developed over the past few weeks with all his training. Her eyes started traveling lower as a blush spread across her face. She was snapped out of her thoughts by Sakura. "Hey Ino pig, what's with you? Your face is all red." Sakura asked her. "Nothing is wrong, billboard brow. Just a little warm out today is all." Ino lied, not wanting to explain to Sakura that she was thinking of Naruto. "So are you guys ready to watch me kick Neji's ass?" Naruto asked with a huge grin across his face. "I don't see that happening, Naruto. Neji is part of the Hyuga and he is one of the strongest shinobi in our class." Tenten told him, admiring her secret crush. "I have to agree with Tenten on this one, Naruto. I just don't see Neji losing to you. What about you two, what do you think?" Sakura chimed in, asking Ino and Choji. Ino and Choji just looked at each other with a grin on their faces. "We have a pretty good idea of who will win, but we ain't gonna say anything right now," Choji said with a nod to Naruto. "You never did believe in me very much, did you, Sakura?" Naruto stated, which made Sakura look away. Wanting to change the subject before it got too bad, Tenten asked Naruto why his weapons pouch looked so empty. Which he told her was a surprise and they would just have to wait and see. Sakura, Tenten, and Choji decide to go get their seats and Ino said she would catch up in a minute. "Be careful out there, Naruto, I don't want to see who get hurt," Ino said in a serious tone. "Oh come on Ino, you know I can beat him. Don't tell me you don't think I can after seeing what all I can do over the past few weeks," Naruto asked with a sad expression. "No, it's nothing," Ino started before she was cut off by Naruto. "Let's make a bet then. If I can beat Neji and defy all the odds everyone think are against me, you give me a kiss," Naruto said with a chuckle, trying to make it seem like a joke. "Deal," was Ino's only reply. "I can't believe I just agreed to that. Maybe this can take what little we have and make it bigger," Ino thought as a blush spread across her face. Really? Asked a very confused Naruto. "Sure, why not? Not like I will have to since the odds are against you so bad," Ino said with a tease. "Just be careful out there, okay? I can't be out there to save your butt if it gets into trouble. Since you can't be there with me, I have an idea," Naruto said as he got closer to Ino and started to undo the bandage around her waist. Ino went about 20 different shades of red all at one time at this little bit of interaction between them. "What are you doing, Naruto?" asked a very confused and embarrassed Ino. Naruto cut off a piece of the bandage and wrapped it around his left arm and tied it in place. "Since you can't be there to save my butt as you put it, at least this way a small part of you will be there with me. I gotta go, the matches are about to start, talk to you after bit." With that he left, leaving a very red but happy Ino by herself as she made her way to join her friends. Naruto stopped around a corner to place a seal on the bandage he had just gotten from Ino. With having the seal in place, Naruto quickly sealed in the weapons that surely helped secure his victory. Approximately 96 tilde. Genma, who was acting at proctor for the finals, walked out to the middle of the arena. He looked up at the Hokage for permission to start, and with receiving the nod he began. First match of the Chunin exam finals will be Naruto Uzumaki vs Neji Hyuga. Participants, please make your way down now, Genma announced. Naruto and Neji both appeared in a swirl of leaves in front of Genma. Both were staring daggers through the other and they both looked like they wanted to kill the other as well. "Your best bet is to give up now. You are a failure. You will never beat one of the Hyuga," Neji said as he got into his taijutsu stance. "I've gotten better over the past few weeks, Neji. I also have a few more tricks up my sleeve. We will just see who comes out on top of this fight," Naruto responded with a cold tone. The Hokage and Cage watched from their seat above the arena. Let's see how well the fox brat has come along, thought the Cage. The first match of the finals begin. And with that, Genma backed up to let the boys go at each other's throats. Naruto quickly jumped back and grabbed a kunai which he threw directly at Neji. He then ran through some hand signs and held his hand straight towards the kunai. Wind style. Wind gale. A blast of wind shot out of Naruto's hand and propelled the kunai even faster toward Neji, who just barely managed to avoid getting hit in the leg. Since you're a close-range fighter, all I had to do is stay away and hit you with long-range attacks. Naruto laughed at Neji. But the farther away you are, the easier it is for me to dodge. Neji said with a smirk. Approximately 96 tilde. Up in the stands, Ino, Choji, Sakura, and Tenten were all watching the fight. Naruto may have thought this through a little bit, but he still can't get close enough to Neji to land the final blow. Neji has this one, Tenten said. And we told you not to underestimate Naruto. He will beat Neji, and then hopefully Neji can pull that stick from his ass after Naruto loosens it up with a good beating. Ino replied a bit harsh. Why are you two so confident in him? Asked Sakura. Because Naruto has been training with Team 10 and Master Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin over the past weeks. Choji told the two girls. Your sensei blew off Naruto's training for that piece of shit Uchiha. And don't get me started on him, forehead, you won't like what I have to say. Let's just watch the fight, Ino said before Sakura could protest. Approximately 96 tilde. Naruto stood there laughing at Neji, which was really starting to piss of the Hyuga. What is so damn funny, loser? Asked a very irritated Neji. Who said that I had to get close to you to win? Naruto asked. How do you plan on winning if you don't get close enough to land a deciding blow on me? Neji asked back. Like this. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Naruto exclaimed as about 50 Narutos appeared before Neji's eyes. Even with his Byakugan, Neji couldn't tell which was the real one. Impressive. Who knew you could create so many? Neji asked, trying to goad Naruto into making a mistake. Glad you think so, cause this is only a handful compared to the amount I can really make. Naruto told him, making even the Cage's eyes widen with shock. Everyone except for Team 10, that is, who just laughed it off. Naruto reached into his weapon pouch and gave each clone a weapon. Some had shuriken, some had kunai, and some even had senbon, which made Genma smile. The clones began to circle Neji and get into a fighting position. Neji acted quickly and started attacking the clones before they had a chance to attack. He had got all but two as they came from behind him. He saw them coming but didn't react fast enough. He saw Naruto make a hand sign and then he shouted, "Exploding clone." The clones then blew up right behind Neji, sending him flying forward. Once again, everyone's eyes went wide. Cheap trick. Neji panted as he picked himself up off the ground. Just proving that I don't have to touch you in order to win. Laughed Naruto as he started to reach for a kunai, realizing he was out. All out of weapons, huh? No, not really. Naruto said as he pumped some chakra into the bandage on his right arm and pulled one of his chakra blades from it. Neji's eyes were wide in shock and anger. Just trying to piss you off some. Well, you have succeeded and now you pay. Neji said. He ran toward Naruto. Naruto ran through some hand signs and shouted, "Wind wall." A massive wall of wind came out of nowhere and Neji ran right into it and it knocked him straight back to the ground. Neji was getting really pissed by now and was trying his best to find a way to get to Naruto. In the stands, everyone was surprised that a Hyuga couldn't even touch Naruto. The two most surprised by this had to be Sakura and Tenten, who was watching with wide eyes while Ino and Choji were laughing. Naruto ran through some more and shouted, "Wind style, wind drill." Naruto took in a deep breath and then blew it at Neji. As the attack flew towards Neji, it began to spiral and build speed and strength. Naruto also used his wind style, wind gale, to speed up the attack. Neji jumped out of the way as the attack went straight through the tree behind him. When it hit the ground, it exploded, leaving a small crater in the ground. Naruto was getting bored of playing around and decided it was time to end this. "Neji, I'm tired of playing around. What do you say we end this so the next match can start?" Naruto asked with a grin. Hearing that Naruto had been playing around caused him to go overboard with anger. "I couldn't agree more," he replied as began running towards Naruto. Naruto pulled some small round bombs from his left arm bandage and threw them at Neji. Neji thought they were just smoke bombs and right, though them not realizing that was what Naruto was hoping for. Naruto didn't even try to avoid the attack that was coming. Neji made it to Naruto and shouted, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Everyone watched as Neji proceeded in blocking Naruto's chakra points. Everyone thought Naruto was done for when they heard him laughing. He started wailing away from Neji as he staggered a little and looked up with a smile on his face. Proctor, this fight is over, Naruto told Genma as everyone wondered what he was talking about. How are you still standing? I blocked off your chakra points. You should be lying on the ground begging me to reopen them. Asked a confused Neji. Naruto was irritated with Neji now. He made one hand sign and there was a small poof of smoke around Neji. What did you just do? Neji asked. That was a poison smoke bomb that I just set off. I got the idea from Ino. The bombs I threw at you earlier weren't smoke bombs but more poison bomb with poison to slow your movements. That is how I avoided your attack and why you thought you hit me. You thought you were moving at your normal speed when you were actually moving slower. You have about 5 minutes before that recent poison bomb takes your life. So either give up and I will give you the antidote or you can die here today. Naruto explained all that just happened. Proctor, I give up. Neji said as he knew he was defeated. Naruto walked over and gave him the antidote that Ino had said was for that exact poison. Winner of the first match is Naruto Uzumaki. Genma proclaimed as the crowd went wild. All were shocked and excited that the famed Hyuga clan had been bested. C told you he would beat that stuck-up Hyuga. Maybe next time you two will listen. Ino told Sakura and Tenten as she placed her hand over her heart and watched Naruto make his way out of the arena. Way to go Naruto. I knew you could do it. Looks like you get that kiss after all. She thought to herself with a smile. Naruto was waiting in the stands talking to Shikamaru and Shino. Shino had passed to the next round because his opponent had forfeited his match. Shikamaru could have easily passed to the next round but he gave up at the last minute saying it was too troublesome to beat a girl and something about just wanting to watch the clouds. Right now everyone was waiting on the last Uchiha to show for his match against Gaara. The Hokage had said they would give him 10 more minutes to show and that if he didn't then he would forfeit the match. Just as Genma was about to declare Gaara the winner, Kakashi and Sasuke appeared in a swirl of leaves. Sorry we're late, Kakashi told Genma with an eye smile. Genma just shrugged and looked at Gaara. Gaara please come down. Gaara appeared in a swirl of sand right in front of Sasuke. Let the final match of the first round begin. They stood staring each other down for a few minutes before Sasuke got irritated and threw some shuriken at Gaara. Gaara's sand automatically came to his defense catching the shuriken. Sasuke gave Gaara a slight smirk before disappearing in a burst of speed. Before Gaara could react, he was sent flying with a right hook straight to the jaw. Everyone watching was amazed at the speed of the last Uchiha. He's just as fast as Lee is. Sakura said watching the whole thing. But he should know that taijutsu alone won't be enough to beat this freak. Ino said equally amazed at how fast Sasuke had gotten. How did he even get that kind of speed in just a month? He copied Lee's taijutsu using his Sharingan. And just watch and see what he does, you may be surprised. Kakashi said causing the group to jump. Back on the arena floor, both fighters were panting hard. Sasuke from using so much speed and having his Sharingan activated and Gaara from being used as a punching bag. Sasuke ran as Gaara with his fist pulled back. Gaara made a few hand signs and his sand became a dome around him protecting him from any outside blow. Sasuke leapt to the top of the wall and made a few hand signs and started to gather chakra on his left palm. His chakra is visible in his hand. What kind of jutsu is that? Sakura asked her sensei. It's called the Chidori. It is an assassination jutsu and it focuses the chakra into the user's hand and using a burst of speed the user runs their target through. Kakashi explained as he looked back to the fight. Sasuke had built up a fair amount of chakra in his hand and with a big burst of speed headed straight towards the dome of sand. He made contact as his hand went straight through and he felt it connect with his target. He gave a small smirk thinking he had won before he was pushed back by a giant arm that shot from the hole he had created. All of a sudden there were explosions all over Konoha. Everyone in the arena started becoming sleepy. Those who knew what was going released the genjutsu immediately. Come Uchiha, let us take this fight elsewhere. With that said Gaara leapt away with Sasuke on his heels. Sakura saw Sasuke leave and quickly followed before Kakashi could stop her. Damn it, it's an invasion, he cursed as he saw Leaf Ninja in battle with Sand and Sound Ninja. Ino, listen to me carefully, I can't use any chakra to summon my ninja dogs here right now. I need to stay here and help where I can. Find Kiba and Naruto. Tell Kiba to lead Naruto to Sasuke and help him defeat Gaara. Hurry before it's too late. And with that, Kakashi disappeared. Ino got up and ran towards the area for the fighters, hoping Naruto would be there somewhere. As she turned the corner, she stopped in her tracks in front of two Sand Ninja. Seeing the blonde kunoichi, they decided to try and have some fun. As they moved closer toward Ino, they both stopped suddenly and fell over dead with kunai sticking out of the back of their heads. Ino looked up and saw Naruto standing behind them. He retrieved his kunai and moved toward Ino. Are you okay, Ino? He asked. Yes, thanks to you I am, she said as she gave him a hug before pulling apart and saying, we need to find Kiba, I will explain on the way. As they took off, Ino explained what was going on, and that made Naruto really pissed. They were invading his home and hurting people he cared for, he would make them pay. They found Kiba asleep from the genjutsu and woke him up, explaining why they needed him and what was going on. Ino, I want you to stay here please? Naruto said, getting ready to leave. No, I can help and I am going. You can't stop me, Naruto. She replied. I know, and that is why I am asking you. I don't want you getting hurt. Naruto pleaded with her. Seeing the concern in his eyes, she sighed. Fine, I will stay. Thank you, Ino. With that, Naruto and Kiba took off. I ain't letting you go so easily, Naruto. All I gotta do is stay back far enough to keep Dog Breath from noticing me, she thought to herself as she took off in the direction her friends went. Approximately 96 tilde. Naruto and Kiba arrived just in time for Naruto to save a beaten and bloodied Sasuke from one of Gaara's massive sand attacks. Kiba and Akamaru were doing their best to hold Gaara back while Sasuke explained what had happened with Gaara's transformation and Sakura being held against the tree. Naruto led of a massive amount of killing intent which affected all but Gaara. Kiba looked back to Naruto and was almost blindsided by a blast of sand, but Akamaru jumped in front of it at the last minute, taking the full force of the attack. Kiba raced to his companion as another shot of sand headed right for him. Water style. Water bullets, Ino shouted, and her attack collided with Gaara's, giving Kiba time to move. Naruto looked around and found Ino in a tree above him, smiling. You didn't really think I would let you go without me now, did you? Ino said. Naruto landed beside her with an angry look on his face. Ino, you need to leave now, Naruto said in a cold tone. Naruto, I want to help please. She was begging him to let her stay. Ino, look around you. Sakura is pinned to a tree and Sasuke passed out from fighting him so much. Even Akamaru is out. I don't want you getting hurt too. Please go back to the village. Ino started to argue that she should stay and help, but looking into his eyes she knew she would just be a distraction for him, trying to keep her safe. She started to turn and leave, but then she quickly grabbed his jacket and pulled his head down to hers and planted her lips on his. She quickly pulled back and looked at his confused expression. That was for you beating Neji. Just promise me that you will come back safely, she asked, staring at the boy she was falling in love with. I promise, but what do I get for this promise? Naruto asked with a grin. That's for me to know and you to find out, she said with a smile as her and Kiba left, leaving Naruto to face Gaara. Naruto looked over the situation and decided it would be best to go full power from the start. He threw some kunai and ran through some hand signs. Wind style. Wind gale, Naruto shouted as wind blasted from his hands and shot the kunai even faster at their intended target. However, the sand came to Gaara's rescue and stopped the kunai inches from his face. Gaara stared at Naruto for a few minutes before speaking. You have eyes like mine. The kind that know loneliness and hurt. Why do you protect these people? I have been through a lot. I know pain and loneliness better than anyone else. But these people you and your allies are hurting are my friends and family. I will protect them at all cost, even if it means giving my own life in the process. With that said, Naruto pumped some chakra into the seal on his left arm bandage and pulled out his chakra blades and began pumping his chakra into them. He rushed forward toward the sand ninja and lashed out at him. The sand once again saved him, but Naruto noticed that his blades went deeper into the sand this time. He smiled as an idea came into his mind. He made a single hand sign and shouted, "Multi-shadow clone jutsu," and with that about 100 clones appeared around him. Half the clones started making hand signs while the other half pulled out kunai infusing it with chakra. They threw their weapons as the other half shouted, "Wind style, great breakthrough." They took a deep breath and brought their hands to their mouths, then let out a powerful blast of wind that propelled the chakra-enforced weapons at the sand ninja, but this time his sand could only stop some of the kunai while the others embedded themselves over his body. The clones then surrounded Gaara as Naruto detonated the clones. Thinking he won, Naruto let out a sigh, then he heard laughing. Gaara looked at Naruto with a smile. "Ready for the real fun?" he asked. Art of playing a possum. Gaara then started to transform until he became a giant raccoon-like beast. Naruto bit his thumb drawing blood as he figured it was time to bring out a friend as well. Summoning jutsu, he shouted as a giant toad with a sword appeared under him. "What do you want now, brat?" asked the toad, which seemed annoyed at being summoned. "I need help taking down that monster over there, Chief Toad," Naruto said. The toad moved with incredible speed and grabbed the tailed beast. The toad couldn't keep a hold though and got thrown away before Naruto could react. "I can't keep a hold of him with webbed feel, we are going to need something with claws," the toad said. "How are we gonna do that?" "I will make us some cover and then lend you my chakra. You make the hand signs and transform us into something with claws so I can keep a hold of him until you wake him up. When he does awaken he will go back to his normal state, so make sure you hit him hard enough to wake him but also take him out of the fight," the toad told him while running through hand signs before leaping into the air. "Water style. Water bullets," the toad said as he sent his jutsu at the beast. The one-tailed demon ran through hand signs and shouted, "Wind style, air bullets." As the attacks collided, the explosion caused a heavy rain and smoke to fill the area. Naruto made the hand signs and transformed into the only thing he could think of, the nine-tailed demon fox. The toad, fox grabbed a hold of the one-tailed beast and Naruto leapt straight for Gaara, putting everything he had left into this final attack. He flew head first right into Gaara as their heads collided. Gaara woke up and returned to his original form as they both fell back to the earth. Naruto started using his chin to crawl his way toward the sand ninja. "Why do you fight so hard to protect them?" Gaara asked. "Like I said, I made promises to protect them all and I will do that even if it costs me my life. They are my friends and family and I love them and will do anything to keep them safe," Naruto said as he continued moving towards Gaara. Gaara's siblings and Kakashi landed beside the fallen boys. Kankuro and Temari picked up Gaara and fled. Kakashi knelt beside Naruto, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It's all right, Naruto. It's over for now. You need to rest." Naruto stopped crawling and went limp. "Whatever Ino is going to give to me for this better be well worth it," he thought as he drifted off to unconsciousness. Naruto woke in a dark hallway. He had no idea where his was at or how he had got here. The last thing he did remember was he had just beaten Gaara and then Kakashi-sensei had shown up and told him that the invasion was over. He decided he needed to try and find a way out of wherever he was at. He took off walking down the hall trying to find the exit. He came to a large open room with gates that stood about 100 feet high. Behind the gates he thought he saw something move. Walking towards the gates cautiously, he could see a giant animal laying behind the doors with its face towards the gate. As he made it to the gate, the animal opened its eyes and looked at him. Naruto could also see that the animal had red fur, the face of the fox, and surprised him the most was the 9 waving tails behind the animal. Naruto started shaking with fear as he realized he was looking at the 9-tailed demon fox. "Yo, you are supposed to be dead," Naruto said, shaking with fear. "No, little one, that is why you are here. I have brought you here to talk with you, Kit. Do not worry, I will not bring harm to you. Even if I wanted to, the seal on this gate keeps me from getting out," the fox replied. Feeling a little relieved at hearing that, some of the tenseness in his body left him. "So what do we need to talk about? We may as well start from the beginning, should we not?" asked the fox. "Alright, well, first off, where in the hell are we?" Naruto asked as he looked around. "We are in your mindscape, little one." "What do you mean my mindscape?" asked a confused Naruto. "I mean what I say. We are in your mind. I hate to be the one to inform you of this, but the 4th Hokage didn't kill me. He and his wife could tell that I wasn't myself when I attacked the village. I was being controlled by some masked man back then. I tried to break the hold that the man had on me, but I was weak back then. As much as the Hokage and his wife didn't want to seal me in you, they had no other choice. She explained. So what you're saying is that what this village has always seen me as is true. I am a demon. You're proof that they were correct. Naruto said with a saddened expression. No, the Kyuubi shouted. The idiotic villagers had no clue what happened. Only the fourth and his wife did. You keep speaking like you know of who they are? Do you? Yes, little one, I do. What I am about to tell you is going to be hard for you to understand. Are you sure you want to know? The fox asked. No, I don't think I do want to know, but I need to know what happened. Please tell me all you know. Naruto pleaded. Well, as I said, I was being controlled by the masked man. The fourth's wife was the Jinchuriki before you. I was pulled out of her by the masked man and he used me to attack the village. The fourth and his wife were the only ones that knew what happened. They knew that something had to be done, so they sealed me inside of you. My name is Kaneko, and I am the nine-tailed demon fox. Said Kaneko. But why me? Why would they seal you inside of me? Naruto asked. Because they knew that one day you would be able to fully control my power and be the hero of the shinobi world. You, Naruto Uzumaki, the son of the fourth Hokage and his wife, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. You are the last of both the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans, little one. Kaneko explained. My parents were the fourth and his wife. I can't believe this. The village never told me anything. They kept it from you because your father was well known and made many enemies in his days. The village didn't even know he was married to your mother until that night. I am sorry for putting all this on your shoulders, but I figured it was as good a time as any to tell you. Why not come to me sooner? Naruto demanded. I may be the strongest of the tailed beast and I am also the ruler of the Fox Kingdom. But in what you would consider human years, I am younger than you. Said Kaneko. Naruto was surprised at this. So you never had a good life either then? Asked Naruto. No, I had about as good as a life as you have, my young kid. Like I said, I too am just a young kid myself. I thank you for sharing this information with me, Kaneko. I ask you just one question. I know you didn't mean to do what you did back then, and I can see why my parents did what they did. I trust you and hope we can be friends and allies. Will you help me protect this village and those I care about in any way you can? Naruto asked as he moved into the gates. I will help you any way I can and lend you some of my power if need be, little one. It is time for you to go, your mate is waiting on you. Here, take this with you. It is a scroll your dad sealed with me to give to you the first time we talked. The fox said, grinning at Naruto. My mate? Asked a confused Naruto. Yes, the blonde-haired girl. She is your mate, isn't she? Said Kaneko with a grin. No, not like that, she isn't. At least not yet, maybe somewhere down the road, but not yet. Naruto said with a grin. Well, we will talk more later. Maybe next time you can bring her to meet me as well. I do believe she is waiting for you. Go to her, little one. Kaneko said, grinning. Naruto placed a hand on her paw and said, thank you. And since you have no family here, allow me to extend the invitation first. If you will be like a little sister, I will help to protect you as well, since I have no family either. Naruto asked. I would like that, Naruto. Now go, your friend awaits. And with that she sent Naruto back to the real world. Approximately 96 tilde. Naruto woke slowly, the light from the sun blinding him at first. When he finally could keep his eyes open, the first thing he noticed Ino sitting in a chair by his bed, leaning over with her head resting on the bed asleep. Naruto looked at her in awe as the sun sparkled across her perfect skin and making her hair glow. He didn't want to wake her but knew she would be mad if he didn't. Ino, wake up, Ino, he said as he gently shook her awake. She slowly started to wake up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Noticing who it was waking her up, she jumped and wrapped him in a hug. Naruto, are you okay? Ino asked, looking him over. I'm fine, Ino, why wouldn't I be? You are in the hospital, Naruto. You have been asleep for 3 days. Naruto's jaw dropped at hearing this. But before he could speak, Ino's gaze caught his attention. He followed her gaze and realized he had the scroll in his hand he had just gotten from Kaneko. What's with the scroll, Naruto? Ino asked, confused. Naruto knew he had to tell her before he could know if they had a chance at anything or not. He reached for her hand and pulled her up to sit next to him on the hospital bed. Ino, we need to talk, he said in a serious tone. Ino was enjoying being beside Naruto. He had just woken up from being asleep for 3 days after the fight with Gaara, and the first thing he did was pull her up beside him and tell her they needed to talk. She was enjoying having Naruto's arm around her, she didn't know why, but it just felt right. Looking up at Naruto, she could see how serious he was. The only time he was ever serious was when it came to missions, training, or ramen. "Naruto, what do we need to talk about?" Ino asked, confused. "Well, first off, I was wondering if you had come up with what I was going to get for keeping my promise." Naruto asked with a small grin. "Like I said, Naruto, that's for me to know and you to find out. When I think of something, then you will know." "Is that all you really wanted to talk about?" Ino asked with a sigh. "It was. But it ain't the most important thing I was needing to talk about," Naruto said with a bit of a saddened expression. Seeing this, Ino knew that something was really wrong with her friend. She decided it would be a little easier to get him to just come out and tell her. "Naruto, whatever is bothering you, you know you can tell me." "What is it?" she asked, hoping to find out what was wrong. Naruto could tell that Ino was worried about him. He was happy that she cared about him so much, and he really cared for her as well. He was hoping that maybe they could have something together, but he knew she would have to know about the demon fox first, before he knew if they could have anything together. "What I am about to tell you has to stay between us for now, okay?" Seeing her nod, he decided to continue. "Ino, have you ever noticed how a lot of the villagers hate me and always call me names like monster or demon?" "Yeah, I have heard them say that, but I never understood why." "Well, what they have been saying is true. I am a demon, Ino," Naruto said as he looked away from her. Ino's eyes went wide at hearing this. She had always heard the villagers call him all kinds of names, but she never believed them. The same boy that the villagers had called a demon was the same boy that had saved her from the bullies when she was younger, the same boy that she was now developing feelings for. "Naruto, what do you mean? You aren't a demon, you are the obnoxious blonde knucklehead of the Hidden Leaf Village," Ino said with a chuckle, trying to lighten the mood. "Ino, have you ever went home after hearing someone saying that and ask your mom and dad about it?" "Yeah, I have, but they said that it was something that you would have to tell everyone about one day, and that no matter what the villagers said, none of it was true." "Well, all of it is true. I may not be a demon 100%, but I have the 9-tailed demon fox sealed inside me. That is why the people always call me a demon, because I have one sealed inside me." Naruto was shocked when Ino threw her arms around him and pulled him into a hug. "No matter what they may say, you are not a demon. You are Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha," Ino told him with tears in her eyes. "Ino, I want to be honest with you. I like you, a lot actually. Every time I spend time with you, I start to have these feelings that I only have when I'm with you. I would like for us to be together, I would like for you to be my girlfriend, but in order for that to work, you have to accept the fact that if you do go out with me, that the villagers may look at you differently," Naruto explained. "Naruto, I don't care how the villagers will look at me. I have had the same feelings for you, and just like you, they only show up when I am with you. So I can accept the fact that I will be looked at differently, and I don't care that you have that demon fox sealed inside you or not," Ino told him as she leaned her head on his shoulder. "Actually, the fox isn't that bad. I had a talk with her while I was out for those 3 days." "What do you mean you talked with it? And how do you know that it is a she?" she asked, confused. Naruto explained what had happened after the fight with Gaara. He told her how Kaneko had come to be sealed inside of him. He told her about his parents and how they both had gave their lives to save him and the village. By the time he had finished explaining everything to Ino, they were both in tears. Naruto because he was happy he knew who his parents were and that they both loved him. Ino because she couldn't believe how much pain and sorrow her now boyfriend had gone through in his life. Naruto still had an arm wrapped around Ino and was rubbing her arm, trying to calm her down. Finally they both stopped crying and both got lost in each other's eyes. Ino placed her hand on the back of his head and brought his lips down to hers. At first, Naruto was surprised but quickly stated to kiss her back. Their kiss was full of love and passion. They slowly broke apart due to lack of oxygen and placed their foreheads together, wrapped in each other's arms. Ino reached down and took the scroll that Naruto had gotten from Kaneko. "So this has some of your dad's best jutsus in it, huh?" Ino asked. "Yeah, but I have time to worry about that later. Right now I'm hoping the old man comes and gets me out of here soon," he said as he sealed the scroll into one of his bandages. Ino's expression immediately turned sad. With what had happened over the past few hours, she had forgotten to tell Naruto what had happened to the Hokage. Just as she started to tell Naruto the bad news, Kakashi appeared out of nowhere in a swirl of leaves. "Hey Kakashi-sensei, did the old man send ya to come get me out of here?" Naruto asked his sensei. "No, I'm afraid not, Naruto. I have some bad news. The third Hokage gave his life to protect the village, Naruto." Kakashi responded to his student. Approximately 96 tilde. The village was quiet that day, all except for those who wept for the deceased Hokage. All of the Leaf Ninja had gathered on top of the Hokage tower to mourn the loss of the village leader. Everyone was sad and depressed, but most hid it well. Naruto was standing next to a small crying boy who was no older than 8. His name was Konohamaru Sarutobi, grandson of the third Hokage. Naruto and Konohamaru had become close friends and considered themselves rivals and brothers. Naruto knew what he was going through as he placed his hand on the young boy's shoulder. Konohamaru looked up at Naruto and started crying even more as he wrapped his arms around Naruto's waist. Naruto knelt beside him and wrapped him in a hug. "It will be all right, Konohamaru. Your grandfather is not dead. He still lives inside your heart as well as everyone's here. He may be gone, but he will live on in all of our memories forever." Naruto told him, trying to comfort the young boy. "I know that, Ni-chan, but it still hurts. I know it does, and it will never truly quit hurting. Just remember that he's still with you and will always be watching over you and everyone in the village," Naruto said with as good of a grin as he could manage for the young boy. A few hours later, and everyone was slowly starting to leave and head home. Ino and her parents were waiting outside of the Hokage tower, waiting for Naruto to come down. They knew he would need someone to help him get through this, considering that the third was like a grandfather to Naruto. Ino saw him come out of the building with tears still fresh in his eyes. She started towards him, but before she could get his attention, he shined away. Ino turned to her parents with a look of worry in her eyes. "Go find him, Ino. Your boyfriend needs you," Seiko said. "How did you know we were together?" Ino asked as she saw her dad tap his head, and she knew the answer. "That's not nice, Daddy." Ino pouted. "Are you gonna stand around and pout, Ino? Or are you gonna go to the one person that needs you now more than anything?" asked Inoichi. With a nod to her parents, Ino leapt away to search for her boyfriend. "You won't be alone any longer, Naruto. I promise you this," she thought as she began her search for Naruto. Ino ran, leapt, and searched all over Konoha for her boyfriend. She knew that he was in pain and she didn't want him to grow through it alone anymore. If there was anything she could to help him, she was going to believe it. Realizing what she had just said in her thoughts made her groan with a small smile. "Only been together for a little over a day and the knucklehead is already rubbing off on me," she thought with another sigh as she sped up her search. There was only one place she hadn't searched yet, and that was his apartment. She had been searching since late afternoon when he raced off from the Hokage tower. He was almost dark now and she hoped he was safe at home. She made it to his place right as the sun was setting in the sky. She knocked on the door but got no answer, so she decided to see if his door was locked. As she turned the handle, the door slid open with a slight creaking sound and she helped herself inside. She looked around the place from the door and saw that it wasn't too big of a place. From what she could see, there was a small living room connected to the kitchen, which wasn't much bigger than the front room. There was only one other door in the place, and she guessed it led to his bedroom and the bathroom. Sitting in the middle of the living room floor, she found Naruto. He looked to be looking at something in his lap, but she couldn't see since he had his back to her. Walking in, she closed the door behind her and slowly made her way to Naruto. As she got closer, she heard him crying, and when she saw what he was looking at, she saw a picture of Naruto, Konohamaru, and the third Hokage. They all had smiles on their faces and seemed really happy. She knew he was taking this just as hard as Konohamaru. She reached down and laid her hand on his shoulder, which startled him, making him jump. "Naruto, I'm here for you. Let me help you through this," she said, trying to be strong for her new love. "I don't need any help, Ino. I just want to be left alone," he told her. "I know you are hurting, Naruto, but please let me try to help." This time she pleaded for him to accept her. "I told you, Ino, I don't need any help. Just leave already," he yelled at her, although he didn't know why. Ino's eyes began to tear up. She knew he was in pain, but all she wanted to do was help him through it. Deciding not to push him any farther, she got up and turned to leave. "Come on, Naruto, she just wants to help you and comfort you." Can't you see that? Listen to your little sister and let your girlfriend help you please. Kaneko asked from within his mind. I know she is just trying to help. And alright, I will listen to you this once and I will let her help. Thank you sis. Naruto responded as he stood to stop Ino. Ino had waited to see if he would change her mind, but after a few minutes of silence, she knew he wanted her to leave. She was about to open the door when Naruto wrapped his arms around her from behind and hugged her tightly. I'm sorry Ino. I didn't mean to yell at you. Please forgive me? Please stay with me? Naruto asked as he buried his head in her neck. Ino reached up and placed a hand on his cheek as she turned to look at him. She stared into the deep blue eyes that were always filled with happiness and excitement but were now filled with pain and sorrow. She leaned up and gave him a small kiss on his cheek. It's alright Naruto, I know you are hurting and yes I will stay. I will always be here for you Naruto, she said as she led him to his couch and pulled his head down to her shoulder. They spent the next few hours talking about the third and how he played a role in Naruto's life and how he had become like a grandfather to the young boy. It was late when they finished talking and both were tired from a long day. It's too late for you to walk home tonight so you can stay here and have the bed, I'll take couch. Naruto told her. Naruto I can't do that, this is your house and I am just a guest I am perfectly fine with sleeping on the couch. Naruto scooped her up in his arms and started towards his bedroom. He set her down and on the bed and went to his closet and got a pair of shorts and a shirt. They may be a bit big but at least they're comfortable to sleep in. He told her as she motioned for him to turn around so he could get dressed. Come on little one, you know you want to look. A quick peek won't hurt anything. Kaneko said with a chuckle as she teased her older brother. We are too young for that kind of stuff. Just go to sleep and quit bothering me right now. He replied. You can turn around now Naruto. Ino said as she wrapped him in a hug from behind. Naruto turned in her arms and placed a small kiss on her forehead. Come on you need to get some sleep. Naruto told her as he started to pull away. I already told you Naruto, you are not sleeping on that couch. Ino told him in a firm tone. Then what do you expect me to do? Naruto asked. Ino took his hand and pulled him to the bed as she climbed in. The bed is big enough for the both of us so just sleep here with me. I feel safer when I'm wrapped in your arms anyway. Please Naruto, I ain't trying to make you uncomfortable or anything, I just want to be with you as much as possible. Ino pleaded. Knowing he had no way around the matter at hand, he gave in with a sigh. He climbed into bed and got as comfortable as he could with the idea of sharing a bed with a girl. Ino laid her head down on his chest with a yawn. Both had blushes spread across their faces but neither one was gonna complain about it. This moment in time just seemed perfect being here with each other. Naruto wrapped an arm around Ino and started rubbing her back. I am really glad you are here with me. I don't know what I would do without you my little Tenchi. Ino blushed even more at the nickname. I will always be here for Naruto. I promise you that, she replied. They shared one last kiss before the day's events caught up with them and they both drifted off to sleep. Approximately 96 tilde. Ino had been up for a few hours now. As she slowly got up and rubbed the sleep from her eyes, she realized she wasn't in her room. As she remembered the previous day's event she looked down to Naruto asleep beside her with an arm draped over her waist. She looked at him as the sun came through the window and flowed over him. It made his blonde hair look almost golden and you could clearly see his whisker marks. She reached over and stroked one of his whiskers and got a soft purr in return. Ino shifted around in bed as she decided to get up and make breakfast before she had to leave for the flower shop. As she went to move, she felt her leg brush up against something under the blankets. She lifted the blankets and saw a slight bulge under Naruto's shorts right next to her leg. With a small eep, she quickly got out of bed and headed for the door only to be stopped when Naruto softly called her name. She turned expecting to see Naruto awake and looking at her. When she looked back he was still sleeping and Ino thought she was hearing things until he called out her name again. Ino then knew that he must be dreaming about her and as she turned and went to make breakfast, with a blush on her face she wondered just what kind of dreams he could be having. Naruto woke to the smell of food being prepared. He looked down expecting to find Ino beside him but she wasn't. He figured that she was the one making breakfast. After a trip to the bathroom he made his way to the kitchen. He stopped at the doorway and watched as Ino moved around the kitchen making breakfast. She had music playing as was dancing around the place never noticing him. The sun shone through the windows and lit up her face with a heavenly glow. Her shined bright as it swayed back and forth. Naruto stared at her in awe. He followed her smooth, slender legs up until they came to her butt, where he quickly averted his gaze. He knew he shouldn't stare at her like this, but she was beautiful and he just couldn't help it. So you will stare at her now but not when she was in your bedroom getting dressed? You humans make no sense whatsoever, said Kaneko. Way to ruin a perfectly good moment there, sis. Naruto replied with an irritated tone. Naruto walked toward Ino, hoping not to have her notice him. As he got behind her, he wrapped her in a hug and placed a small kiss on her neck. Good morning, Ino. Ino jumped at the contact out of surprise but immediately melted into his warm embrace. Good morning, Naruto. Breakfast is done. Naruto helped her move everything to the table and settled down across from Ino. So what are you planning on doing today? He asked her. Not much really. I had to go to the flower shop for a bit today, but then I am gonna come back here and spend time with you. I thought I could cook you dinner as payment for you keeping your promise. You need something other than ramen anyways, she said with a smile. Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with ramen. But I will be willing to eat something else for you, he added quickly when she glared at him. They ate the rest of breakfast, having small talk and discussing what to have for dinner tonight. It was close to noon when Ino realized the time and rushed to get ready to go. She got her stuff gathered and stopped long enough to say goodbye to Naruto. I will see you later tonight around 6, okay? Ino said. Sure, that sounds great. I will see you later, my little Tenchi. Naruto replied. With a quick kiss, Ino ran out the door, leaving a laughing Naruto. I wonder how she is gonna explain why she is still in my clothes, Naruto thought as he went to get ready for his day. Ino made it to the flower shop just before opening time. She went in through the back and found her mom and dad going over magazines looking for new plants to order for the shop. She went up and gave them both a kiss on the cheek and a good morning. She looked at her parents and noticed that her mom had a slight smile on her face and her dad seemed a little angry. What? Asked a confused Ino. Young lady, would you care to explain what you are wearing and why? Inoichi said in a firm tone. Ino looked down and a blush spread across her face as she realized that she was still in Naruto's clothes. When she rushed out of his place that morning, she had forgotten to go home and change due to her not wanting to be late. These are Naruto's clothes that he let me sleep in last night, and I guess I forgot to go home and change, Ino explained. Why are you in his clothes and not yours? Inoichi asked as his temper started to rise before he was elbowed in the side by his wife. Leave the poor girl alone, dear. She is a smart young woman and I'm sure she didn't do any of the things you are thinking she did, Seiko told him. The reason I am in Naruto's clothes is because he wanted me to stay with him last night because he was hurt and upset. All I had was the clothes I wore to the funeral, so he offered these to me. Nothing happened, Daddy, I promise, Ino explained as her dad sighed. Fine, just go open the shop, Inoichi told Ino, and she ran off to open up. Don't be so harsh on the girl, Inoichi. You and I weren't much older than they are now when we had our first time together. They are both smart, young adults, Seiko told him as she got up to leave to the greenhouse. Inoichi just sighed and shook his head. His little girl was still too little to be doing any of the things her parents had at her age. As he got up to go about his day, he was thinking about the fear he would have to put into the boy. The only question was how to do that, since Naruto didn't seem to know what fear is. Ino was sitting behind the counter with his shirt up to her nose. She knew it would be a long day, but she didn't care. She was lost in thought as she inhaled his scent and began to drift deeper into her mind. Approximately 96 tilde. Across town, a certain long, gray-haired pervert was conducting research at the local hot springs. He was too lost in his activities that he failed to notice an elderly man and women approach from behind. They were Homura and Kaharu, two of the village council elders. Jiraiya, we need to have a word with you, Homura said. Jiraiya was surprised by the voice and jumped and hit his head on the wall of the hot springs. The girls he was watching all took off to the locker room. Turning around, his face grew to a frown. To what do I owe the honor? He asked with a bit of sarcasm. We will get straight to the point, Jiraiya. We want you to be the 5th Hokage, Kaharu said. Jiraiya just looked at them and laughed as he said, I'm not interested in that position. You couldn't pay me enough to do it. Find someone else, he told them flatly. We believe that Sarutobi's successor should be one of his students. Orochimaru is a traitor and we have no idea where Tsunade is, so that only leaves you. said Homura. She was last seen in a small town called Tanzuka down next to the border of the Land of Fire. A few weeks' trip from here. Have her take Sarutobi's place. He told them as he turned to leave. You will go and convince her to return and become Hokage. Komura said. And if I refuse? He asked. Then you won't be allowed anywhere near the hot springs to conduct your so-called research. Said Homura. Fine, but I want to take Naruto Uzumaki with me. I want to train the kid and help improve his skills. I don't think it too much to ask considering he took down a sand demon. Jiraiya said as he waited for his reply. They both nodded at him and left. Now to convince him to go, that is easier said than done. Same can be said for Tsunade, I guess. Maybe after seeing how much he looks like Minato she will change her mind. Jiraiya thought as he left the hot springs. Approximately 96 tilde. It was around 3 o'clock and Naruto was aimlessly moving around Konoha. He had spent the last 3 hours going over and learning one of his father's best techniques, the Hiraishin Jutsu. It would take normal ninja close to a month to learn the jutsu, but Naruto wasn't normal by any means of the word. Using shadow clones, he had sped up the process and learned it in less than a day. Sealed in the scroll was some of his dad's kunai that the scroll said could be multiplied by using the shadow clone jutsu on it to give you more places to teleport to. Naruto had ease with this since the shadow clone jutsu was one of his best jutsus now. He was on his way to see Ino. He was happy that she had accepted him with having Kaneko sealed inside him and that she had stayed and helped him through some of the pain. He was brought out of his thoughts when a girl called his name. Naruto turned toward the voice and saw Tenten running towards him. What's up, Tenten? Naruto asked. We are all getting together in about an hour at Training Ground 10 to have trained together. You and Ino are the last two I have to tell. Alright, that sounds like fun. I will let Ino know. I was on my way to the flower shop now anyways. Is Neji gonna be there? I would like to have a rematch and hopefully then that stick he has shoved up his ass will come out. Naruto said with a grin. Tenten was silently cursing at Naruto for talking like that about her crush. Yes, Naruto, he will be there, and when he wins, everyone will see that you just got lucky last time. She thought to herself. Yeah, he will be there. Well, see you in a bit. Tenten said as she forced a smile and walked off. Naruto made it to the shop and went in. He found Ino behind the counter still in his clothes and apparently lost in thought as she didn't notice him come in. Naruto decided to have some fun and snuck around the counter, quietly coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around and placing a kiss on her neck. Ino jumped at the contact and turned around and realized who it was. She punched him in the arm but stayed where she was at, enjoying the embrace. What are you doing here, Naruto? Not that I'm complaining or anything. Ino asked. I just wanted to see you, so I decided to stop by. And on the way here we were invited to train with everyone here in about an hour at Training Ground 10. So I decided to see if you get off work and go? Naruto asked as he began kissing her neck. Ino shivered as he placed kisses up and down her neck. It was a feeling that she had never felt before, but it felt good to her. She pulled him closer, trying to get more. Naruto lifted her up and sat her on the counter without stopping the kissing. He kissed up to her ear and gently nibbled on her earlobe. Ino and let out a small moan and Naruto kept going. He moved back to her neck and started to suck on her skin and lightly run his tongue across her skin. All of a sudden they heard the back door open and they quickly broke apart. Naruto jumped across the counter as Ino got off it and fixed her clothes. They both had blushes on their faces as Inoichi walked in with a few potted flowers. Inoichi was trying to figure out why they wouldn't look at him as Ino spoke up. Our friends are getting together to train here shortly at the training fields. Would it be alright if I go? Ino asked, doing her best to hide the blush. Yeah, you can go. But you need to be home no later than 9, young lady. Ino yelled okay over her shoulder as she pulled Naruto out the door. Man, that was a close one. Ino said with a blush. Yeah, sorry about that, Ino. I don't know what came over me. Naruto said as he rubbed the back of his head. It's alright, Naruto. It was fun. Come on, we gotta hurry or we will be late. Ino said as she placed a small kiss on his cheek. Approximately 96 tilde. They made it to the training grounds a little while later and saw that everyone had showed up but Sasuke. So where is Sasuke? Naruto asked out loud to anyone who would answer. Don't know. All he said is that he had better things to do than train with those that are under him. Probably just didn't want his butt getting kicked all over the field. Kiba said with a smirk. Don't talk about Sasuke like that, Sakura said, defending her crush while everyone else just rolled their eyes. So how are we gonna go about this? I'm ready to get some training done, Naruto asked in his usual hypertone. Why not just spar one-on-one, one match at a time, while the others watch? Choji asked. Sounds good to me. Let's get this started then, Naruto said. Naruto went back to where Ino was waiting and lay down with his head in her lap waiting for his turn to spar. They didn't pay any attention to the looks they were getting from their friends. All that mattered was each other. That sat there talking until it was Naruto's turn to spar. So who is my partner? Naruto asked, looking at his friends. That would be me. It's time to show everyone that it was just a fluke that I lost to you. You will lose to me today, it is your destiny, Neji said with a smirk. Naruto just rolled his eyes and looked back at Ino. Should I play around with this a little bit or should I just end it quickly? Naruto asked her with a laugh. A little humiliation never hurt anyone. I'm sure having a little fun wouldn't hurt, Ino told him as he made his way to the field. Alright Neji, let's get this over with. I have dinner plans tonight and I would rather be there than here right now, Naruto said as he gave Ino a wink. You will lose here today by the hand of the Hyuga clan. You cannot defeat me, you little orphan, Neji spat back. Ino was fuming with anger and was releasing a massive amount of killer intent towards Neji. Naruto and Neji were too focused on each other, but all their other friends were slowly moving away from the angry Kunoichi. She knew of Naruto's heritage and wanted to rub it in everyone's face that her boyfriend came from 2 clans, but she knew it wasn't her place to tell anyone. She was too angry and lost and thought she didn't notice Naruto come over to her. Calm down my little Tenchi. Don't let him get to you, you ain't the one fighting him, Naruto said with a chuckle as he leaned down and placed a small kiss on her forehead. Most of the anger left Ino just then. She didn't know how he did it, but he could always calm her down, even before they had gotten together, but now he did it more sweetly. Once again they got looks from their friends but didn't pay them much attention. Naruto made his way back to Neji. Well, like I said, let's get this over with, Naruto said with a smile. I will not lose again to a parentless, clanless loser, Neji spat back. I used to think I was all those things too. Tell you what Neji, I learned of my heritage and I know exactly where I come from, so after I kick your ass here for the second time, I will explain to everyone just where exactly I come from, and then we will see just how high and mighty you think you are, Naruto said as he and Neji got into their fighting stances. Over on the sideline, Ino was watching and cheering her boyfriend on, much to the irritation of Tenten. Ino noticed Sakura coming toward her and knew she wanted answers. It was a good thing to get it out of the way now because Ino was needing to talk to Sakura as well about a few things. Sakura walked over and sat down next to Ino. Ino was sure she knew what it was that the Pinkette wanted to talk about, but decided to let her be the one to start the conversation. They sat there in silence for a bit before Sakura spoke up. Ino, can I ask you a question? Sakura finally asked, breaking the silence. I'm sure I know what it is, but go for it, Ino replied. How long exactly has this been going on? What do you mean by this? Ino asked, playing innocent. You know what I mean, Ino. Naruto laying in your lap, the kiss on your cheek. It seems like you two are a couple now. And what if we are? I don't think it really matters to you since you were always after Sasuke. And just so we are clear, yes, Naruto and I are dating now, and it has only been for a few days, Ino told her. But I thought you liked Sasuke as well? Asked Sakura. I used to, Sakura. But ever since I started spending more time with Naruto, I have given up on Sasuke. I have Naruto and he makes me happier than anything else ever could. But Sasuke is so cool and popular and he is the last Uchiha. Why would you choose Naruto over Sasuke? Because Naruto is sweet and caring, not a stuck-up snob. If you want Sasuke, then have him. I don't want our relationships with other people to come between our friendship anymore, Sakura. And as for Sasuke being the last Uchiha, he ain't got anything on Naruto when it comes to clans, Ino said with a smirk. What do you mean by that? Asked a confused Sakura. Let's just say that Naruto isn't the parentless orphan we all thought him to be. And one more thing, Sakura, Naruto still cares for you. He may not have a crush on you anymore, but he still cares for like a sister. And no more hitting him either, or I will bring down a world of pain like you have never seen before, I promise you that. I won't let anyone hurt Naruto anymore. Ino told her the last part with an icy tone. Alright, I won't beat on him anymore. Still though, I want to know what you mean about Naruto. Sakura asked. You will just have to wait and see. Ino replied with a grin as she continued watching the fight between Naruto and Neji. Approximately 96 tilde. As the girls were having their talk, the rematch from the Chunin exams was starting. Everyone had stopped to watch and some were wondering who was gonna win this time. Tenten smirked as she thought about how it was going to feel to watch Naruto fail this time around. So you gonna use any cheap tricks this time around? Neji asked. If you are talking about the poison, then no, I decided not to use any this time so that way when I kick your ass this time you can't. It was because of the poison. Naruto responded with a smirk. Neji's temper had reached its breaking point and pulling a kunai from his weapon pouch he charged at Naruto. Naruto just stood there and waited for Neji to attack. When Neji sliced at him he simply dodged it. Neji kept slicing wildly and Naruto just kept dodging to the left, then the right and then back, and it made him look like he was just bouncing around. Oh wait, he actually was bouncing around Neji. Much to his and Tenten's frustration and everyone else's enjoyment. Stop running and start fighting. Neji yelled. If you insist. Naruto smirked as he made a few hand signs and moved around Neji to his back. Wind style, wind gale. Naruto raised his hands at Neji's back and a gust of wind shot out knocking the Hyuga over. He hit the ground with a thud but quickly got back to his feet. If looks could kill, then Neji would have killed Naruto 100 times over already. Is that good enough for you? Asked Naruto with a chuckle. Not even enough to keep me down, loser. Neji yelled. Then try avoiding an attack you can't see. Running through some more hand signs, Naruto shouted, wind style, wind needles. Naruto brought his hands to his mouth as he inhaled a deep amount of air then blew little needle-like projectiles at Neji. Neji activated his Byakugan so he could see the attack and was amazed at the amount of needles heading his way. He did the only thing he could think of. 8 trigrams, palm rotation. He said as he began to spin and chakra leaped from his body at every point making a barrier around him. On the sidelines Tenten was happy. She thought Naruto couldn't break through Neji's so-called ultimate defense. Ha, Naruto can't touch him now. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji chuckled at the same time before Shikamaru looked at Tenten's irritated face and said. We used to think that too, but watch, he may just surprise you. Naruto ran through a few more hand signs and shouted, wind style, wind dragon jutsu. As a large dragon appeared and slammed into Neji's chakra sphere with an explosion disrupting the barrier. Everyone was wide-eyed with surprise and shock except for Team 10. Naruto didn't realize that he was within Neji's striking range. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Neji shouted as he struck Naruto's chakra points. Naruto fell limply to the ground. Well, I admit, you gave me a good match but I win, which means you just got lucky last time. Neji stated with his usual arrogant tone. Way to go Neji, Tenten shouted. You know it ain't over yet, right? Choji asked with a smirk on his face. His chakra points are closed. Of course it is over, replied Tenten angrily. Naruto, come on, time to get up and quit playing around. Beat this stuck-up prick so we can go have dinner. You know we still have to stop back by my place first. So come on, no more playing around. Ino yelled to her boyfriend. Naruto jumped up and dusted himself off. Neji, did anyone ever tell you that you hit worse than a girl? I'm sure even Hinata could hit harder than you. Naruto said laughing. How is that even possible? Your chakra points are closed. And I hit just fine. Neji replied with a growl, checking him over with his Byakugan. Can I borrow some of your chakra, sis? Naruto asked Kaneko. Of course little one, please finish this quickly. He is really annoying. Kaneko replied with a sigh. Naruto placed his hands together and summoned some of the fox's chakra while shouting, Chakra Pulse. One by one Naruto's chakra points started opening and Neji watched in shock. Now Neji, I will finish this, he said as he pulled the 3-pronged kunai from his seal. He threw it at Neji and did a few hand signs while shouting, Kunai Shadow Clone Jutsu. As 50 kunai marked with special seals landed around Neji. You missed me, you loser. Neji said. No, they landed right where I wanted them to. Naruto replied. What do yo? Neji didn't get to finish his sentence as Naruto disappeared and reappeared right beside him with a right hook to the face before he was gone again. Neji went flying to the right before Naruto appeared again and changed his direction with a kick to Neji's side. After a few minutes of disappearing and reappearing, he decided to let Neji land with a large thud against a tree where he slid to the base. Neji tried to get up but fell face first to the ground. "Looks like I win. Again," he said with an extra emphasis on the last word. Everyone was shocked, including Team 10. They knew Naruto was strong, but they didn't even know he could use a jutsu like that. Tenten was beyond angry that her secret crush had lost yet again. Naruto walked over to Neji and offered him a hand up. Neji accepted and stood wobbly beside Naruto. "I admit my defeat. May I ask how you did that, Naruto?" Neji asked as he sat down beside everyone else. Naruto held out a hand for Ino and she happily joined him as he sat in front of his friends and pulled Ino into his lap and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Well, I guess I have some explaining to do," he told them as they all nodded. Naruto was sitting in front of his friends with Ino sitting in his lap leaned back against him. It was hard enough to tell Ino the first time around. At least this time, he had support in explaining it this time around. "What I am about to tell you has to stay between us here. No one outside this group is allowed to know what we are going to discuss. You all know about how the fourth Hokage had to fight the nine-tailed demon fox and sealed it away, sacrificing himself in the process, right?" Naruto asked, looking at each friend. As each of them nodded, he continued. "Well, it is true that he beat the Kyuubi, but he didn't kill it like everyone thought. Instead, he sealed the Kyuubi inside a newborn infant. That infant happened to be me. I have the nine-tailed demon fox sealed inside of me." Naruto explained. Everyone's eyes went wide. They were all told that the fourth Hokage had killed the Kyuubi but in the process had lost his life. And now they were just told that it was still alive and sealed within one of their friends. It was Neji who spoke first. "Naruto, you told me that you would tell us about your parents. I'm guessing that your parents and the Kyuubi have something in common?" "Yes, Neji, they do have something in common. The fourth Hokage's name was Minato Namikaze and his wife's name was Kushina Uzumaki. They were my parents and gave their lives protecting me and this village. I am the last heir to both the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans." Naruto further explained. They were all taken back by this news. The boy that everyone thought was a parentless orphan was the sole survivor of two of the strongest clans ever known to the ninja world. They all sat in an awkward silence before Shikamaru spoke up. "Naruto, if I may ask you a question, why would any father choose their own kid? Why not choose someone different to seal away the Kyuubi inside of?" Shikamaru asked, actually confused for once. "My dad always said that he didn't expect anyone to do something he wouldn't. So instead of asking someone to give up their child, he chose his own and hoped that the village would see me as a hero. That never happened though, because all the village saw was a demon," Naruto said, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. Ino took his hand in hers and gently squeezed it, showing she was there for support. She knew what he was going through, and although it wasn't as hard this time as the first, it still brought him more pain. Naruto leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek and whispered thank you in her ear. "The Kyuubi's name is Kaneko. I can talk to her within my mind. She first came to me after the fight with Gaara. She didn't mean to attack the village those years ago. She was being controlled by a masked man when she attacked the village. My dad knew this and tried to help, but he couldn't, and so he had to seal her inside me." All his friends were taken back by all the news that had just been told. They were always told that the demon was evil and could wipe a village out in mere minutes. And here Naruto was telling them that she hadn't meant to attack and destroy most of their village. "I don't expect you all to believe me or trust me immediately after hearing all this, and I will give you all time to think all this over. We have to go now anyways before we are late for our dinner. See you all later," Naruto told them as he stood with Ino and they began to walk away. Just then Jiraiya dropped down in front of Naruto and Ino. Naruto was surprised and instinctively launched a kunai at Jiraiya, who just wrapped his hair around his body and the kunai bounced off harmlessly. Ino was interested in how he had done that. "Master Jiraiya, how did you just do that thing with your hair?" Ino asked curiously. "Just pump chakra into it and you can do quite a few interesting things with it. Ask the Gaki here, I'm sure he could tell you some of them," he replied. "Hey pervy sage, what are you doing here?" Naruto asked, confused. "I have a mission tomorrow and want you to tag along. We have to find my old teammate Tsunade. What if I don't want to go with you, you giant perv?" Naruto asked. The council decided to make her the fifth Hokage. This is a mission to bring her back to the village, Naruto. Jiraiya stated plainly. Naruto got serious all of a sudden. How long will it take? Don't know, but I expect at least a month. We will leave at 8 in the morning. Naruto looked over to Ino, who was now paying attention to the boys' conversation. Ino just nodded with a smile. Alright, I'll be there. Later, pervy sage. Naruto called over his shoulder as he walked off with Ino. Approximately 96 tilde. They made it to Ino's house a little before 5. They had walked the whole way in silence. Naruto knew something was wrong, but he wouldn't push her for answers right now. They walked in and Ino ran upstairs to change out of her ninja gear. While waiting for Ino, Naruto noticed Inoichi giving him death glares. He locked eyes with Inoichi and Inoichi motioned for Naruto to follow. They went in and sat at the kitchen table as Inoichi spoke up. Naruto, you are a nice boy and me and Seiko have never had any problems with you. I have noticed that you and Ino have gotten closer lately. He stated, raising an eyebrow. Yes sir, Ino and I have gotten closer now and we are dating. Why, is something wrong? Naruto asked, a little nervous. No Naruto, nothing is wrong. She is just my baby girl and I want to make sure that she is gonna always be safe no matter who she is with or where she is at. I just want her to be safe. I can promise that I will do my best to never hurt Ino and I will try with everything I have to keep her happy. I love her and I know that she loves me as well. As long as it is within my power to do so, Ino will always be happy. Naruto said with his tone completely serious. That is all I ask, Naruto. Thank you, Inoichi said with a small grin. May I ask you a question, sir? With Inoichi's nod he continued. I am leaving on a mission in the morning with Jiraiya-sensei. Would it be alright if Ino stayed the night with me? I'm not sure how long I will be gone and I would like to spend as much time as with her as I can. And nothing will happen, I promise. Naruto added the last part with a bit of a blush. Alright, she can stay with you. But if you do anything to hurt my little girl in any way, you will spend the rest of your life thinking you are a 5-year-old little girl in a pretty little pink dress. Inoichi told him with a small grin but in a serious tone. I completely understand, sir, Naruto said with a small gulp. Unbeknown to them, Ino had heard most of the conversation. She had left with happy tears in her eyes before Naruto had asked if she could stay. She didn't want to get caught listening in on their conversation, so she decided to go back upstairs and then come back down a few minutes later. You ready to go, Naruto? Ino asked as she gave her dad a hug and kiss on the cheek. Yeah, I'm ready, Naruto said as he was dragged out of the house, thankful to be away from Inoichi's overprotective stare. Approximately 96 tilde. They walked to Naruto's apartment in more silence. Naruto had no clue why Ino seemed upset. She had been like this ever since Jiraiya had asked him to go on this mission with him. Could that be what's bothering her? Maybe she doesn't want me to go after all? Naruto thought as he kept taking small glances over at her. They made it to his apartment and he unlocked the door and let Ino go in first. Ino, what's wrong? He asked as he shut the door and took off his shoes. Nothing is wrong, Naruto. I get to spend time with you, so how could anything be wrong? She asked, forcing a smile. Ino, do you really think I believe that? We have been friends forever and now that we are dating, I don't want to keep anything from me. I want you to be happy, he told her as he wrapped her in a hug and started rubbing the small of her back. Ino melted into his embrace as a small moan escaped her lips. That's not fair, Naruto. A small smile crossed Naruto's face. He had just found a way to get Ino to open up to him and he didn't even mean to. Please tell me what is bothering you, Tenchi? Naruto asked once again. I'm worried, Naruto. I know that you are strong and plus Master Jiraiya is one of the legendary Sannin, but I'm still worried that something is going to happen to you. Ino told him, pulling him closer. Naruto gently pulled away and lifted Ino's head with his hand. He placed his forehead against hers and they stared into each other's eyes for a few minutes before Naruto broke the silence. I will be fine, Ino, I promise. I will get this mission completed as fast as I can and come back to you as soon as I possibly can. If anything does go wrong, Jiraiya-sensei can help me better than anyone. You would be surprised at how fast the Chief Toad can get from place to place. He is the size of a mountain, for crying out loud. Naruto said with a chuckle which earned a grin from Ino. Alright, I'm sorry for worrying so much. Just please be careful and come home soon. Okay, Ino told him before looking towards the kitchen. What's for dinner? I was thinking hayashi raisu. Hashed beef stew, thinly sliced beef and onions in a demi-glace sauce served over or alongside cooked rice. Sound alright with you? He asked. Sounds great, she replied as they headed into the kitchen to start cooking. They spent the time preparing dinner, talking and goofing off. A lot of the preparation time was spent covering each other in various ingredients while acting like a couple of little children. Naruto took time out to go and clean himself up. When he came back to the kitchen, he just stood at the doorway staring. Ino had turned on some music and was now dancing back and forth. Naruto just watched as she took in the sight of her lovely body. He noticed how she moved so smoothly like flowing water. He took in the sight of the curves of her body, her golden blonde hair flowing freely back and forth as she danced. Her slender legs which ran until they were covered by her shorts. And then his gaze went elsewhere. Man, she is so beautiful. Her legs, her curves, everything about her is amazing. I wonder what she looks like. No bad thoughts are bad. He thought quietly, trying to shake the thoughts he was having from his head as a blush appeared on his face. You know, you could just put those thoughts into action. I'm sure she is just as willing as you are. Kaneko said from within his mind. I don't know what you are talking about. I wasn't having any thoughts. Quit being so annoying, Naruto replied. That's what little sisters are for, are they not? I can see and hear everything you do, even your thoughts. But I will go for now, your mate seems to have noticed you spacing out. Kaneko said before ending the chat. Naruto, you alright? Asked Ino. Yeah, sorry, just having a small talk with Kaneko. Naruto replied. What about? Just thoughts and whether they are good or not. Naruto told her with a slight blush. Ino noticed the blush and realized he must have been thinking of her. What kind of thoughts could he be having? Ino thought to herself. They finished making dinner and Ino went to clean up a little. While she was gone, Naruto made a few clones to help with a surprise for Ino. When Ino came back to the kitchen, she was shocked at what she found. The lights were off and the only light was from some candles placed and lit around the living room and kitchen areas. A vase of violet flowers, symbol of the Yamanaka clan, set in the middle of the table, and the dinner was placed on the table for the two of them. I hope you like it. Naruto whispered in her ear, wrapping her in a hug from behind. This is really sweet of you, Naruto, but how did you do this in a matter of minutes? Ino asked, confused. Shadow clones help with more than fighting and training, you know, he said with a grin. He pulled her seat out for her and then took his own seat. They both bowed their heads and after a quick "itadakimasu," they began to eat. They spent the time talking about how they would miss each other and Naruto repeatedly promising to come back in on peace. After they cleaned up from dinner, Naruto led her into the living room and sat on the couch, pulling her into his lap, and stayed there for a while before Ino spoke up. Naruto, I need to get going. It's getting late, Ino said with a sad expression. Or you could spend the night with me and see me off in the morning. Naruto suggested. I already asked your dad and it is fine with your parents if you stay. Ino turned in his lap till she was straddling him and gave him a hug. Thank you, Naruto, I would love to spend another night with you. I'm glad, he said as he placed a small kiss on her cheek. Ino leaned back to look into his eyes. The small light from the flickering flames danced in both their eyes. They lost themselves in each other's eyes for a few moments. Did you mean what you said? Ino asked, leaning down till her forehead rested on his. What do you mean, Ino? Asked a confused Naruto. What you told my dad back at my place when the two of you had your little talk. About you keeping me happy and everything. Ino reminded him. Of course I meant it. I will do everything I possibly can to make you happy and protect you and keep you safe. I promise, he told her with a serious tone. She leaned in and started to kiss him. He wrapped his arms around her and placed a hand on the small of her back, gently rubbing it while pulling her deeper into the kiss. As the kiss deepened, his tongue ran across her lips as if asking for permission to enter. She opened her mouth as their tongues fought for dominance. Not one to be outdone, Naruto slid his hand under her shirt and ran his fingers up and down her spine, causing her to shiver and moan at the contact. That little moment was all that he needed to gain the upper hand. His tongue explored her mouth before he let her do the same. They broke the kiss due to lack of oxygen between the two of them. Their heads were spinning from the brief contact before Ino realized where Naruto's hand had found its way to. She immediately blushed. Naruto barely noticed the blush. You okay, Ino? He asked. Naruto, your hand, Ino told him, still blushing. Naruto then noticed his hand was now placed on Ino's ass. Naruto realized he must have moved it there during the kiss. Naruto blushed deeply and quickly moved his hand. "I'm sorry, Ino. I didn't realize what was going on. I'm sorry," he quickly said. "It's all right, Naruto. The whole moment was different, but I enjoyed it. I think it's time we head to bed though," Ino said as she got off Naruto. They blew out the candles and headed to the bedroom. Naruto went and got changed for bed. When he came back to the room, he noticed Ino hadn't got changed yet. After asking why, he remembered that she didn't know she would be staying the night, so he gave her some of his clothes to wear to bed. They settled down and after a good night kiss they drifted off to sleep with Ino wrapped in Naruto's arms. Approximately 96 tilde. They woke that morning and had breakfast, then headed for the gates to meet up with Jiraiya. On the way, Naruto had to once again repeatedly promise to come back as soon as he could. They made it to the gates where Jiraiya was waiting. "Hurry up, kid, we need to get a move on." "Just a second, pervy sage," Naruto said as he turned to Ino, who now had tears in her eyes. Wiping away the tears, Naruto spoke. "I promise I will be back as soon as I can. I want you to be careful too, okay?" With a nod from Ino, he wrapped her in a hug, saying it was time for him to go. He leaned down and whispered something in her ear before Jiraiya pulled him out of the gates. Ino watched him leave with tears still in her eyes. They weren't sad tears. No, they were happy ones as she replayed the 3 words Naruto had just said to her over and over in her mind. "I love you too, Naruto," Ino thought as she made her way back into the village. It had been 2 weeks since Naruto left with Jiraiya. Ino was at the flower shop slouched back in a soft chair rubbing her sore muscles. Right after Naruto had left, Ino had decided to take her training a little more seriously so she could protect Naruto just like he wanted to protect her. She could tell she was getting stronger, but her new sensei was pushing her quite hard. Her new sensei was friends with Asuma, so Asuma had asked her to teach Ino since both people dealt with poison. She owed Asuma sensei a big one for getting the sadistic snake lady to teach her. Flashback. Ino joined up with her team at their training ground after she walked with Naruto to the village gates to see him off. She noticed another woman standing next to her sensei. The woman wore a tan trench coat over top a mesh bodysuit that ran from her neck to her thighs. She also had on a dark orange miniskirt and the standard ninja sandals. All in all, her outfit left very little to the imagination. Ino remembered her from the Chunin exams as Anko Mitarashi. Ino walked up and joined her team. Asuma looked at her and gave her a small smile. Ino knew she was in trouble now. Asuma never smiled like that unless he had some type of punishment planned. Ino shivered as she waited for the news. "Oh Ino, glad you could join us. You remember how you said you wanted to start training more seriously now, right?" Asuma asked. "Yeah, what about it?" asked a confused Ino. "Well, since you deal with poison somewhat, I asked my good friend Anko here if she would be willing to train you. And wouldn't you know it, she agreed to have a new student," Asuma said with an evil grin. "So now I'm stuck with the creepy snake lady. Great, how could it get any worse?" Ino sighed. "Cheer up, Blondie, I won't train you as hard as Asuma does," Anko told her. "Really?" asked Ino a little hopeful. "Yep, really. I will train you about 10 times as hard," Anko said with a laugh as she saw the terrified look on Ino's face. End flashback. Ino was glad she had the day off. She had learned a lot from Anko, including a few snake jutsus, and was even able to sign the snake's summoning contract. Anko's training had helped Ino on her stamina and chakra reserves as well. She was happy with the results of the training, especially after only 2 weeks, but she was even happier for her day off to rest. Just then, the bell rang, alerting Ino that someone had come in. She looked up and Sakura. "Hey Forehead, what are you doing here?" Ino asked. "No one has seen you around lately, Ino Pig. So I thought I would come by and see what you have been up to." Sakura replied. "I haven't had a lot of time to do anything lately. I have been training with Anko sensei a lot and haven't had time for anything else between that and work. Today is the first day that I have gotten to rest in 2 weeks. Well, Tenten and Hinata are coming over to my place to hang out. You want to come with?" asked Sakura. "Tenten is actually coming? I thought she hated us all because we cheered on Naruto when he beat Neji both times?" Ino asked in confusion. "I guess Neji talked some sense into her. She apologized for her behavior and has been hanging out with everyone ever since. So how about it, wanna come?" Sakura asked once again. Sure, I'll come, Ino said as she yelled and told her mom where she was going. Approximately 96 tilde. A little while later, all four girls were sitting around Sakura's kitchen table talking. They were catching Ino up on the things since she had been busy training over the past 2 weeks. They were all laughing and having a good time enjoying spending time with friends. So Ino, how are things going with Naruto? Sakura asked with a mischievous grin. All the girls looked at Ino as she got a far-off look in her eyes. She started blushing and started to drool just a little. The other 3 girls all started to giggle at Ino as she seemed to completely space out. Sakura grabbed her shoulders and started to shake Ino to bring her back to her senses. She snapped out of her thoughts, shaking her head as she tried to clear it and wiped the drool from her mouth. So it's that good, huh? Sakura asked with a raised eyebrow. Oh yeah, it's that good, Ino said with a grin. Tenten leaned over the table a little more towards Ino. Come on Ino, time to spill what's so good about it. Well, so far, the best thing was the night right before you left with Master Jiraiya. Seeing the looks she was getting from her friends, she quickly continued. Before we went to his house, my dad had a talk with him about him hurting me and stuff. He promised that he would do whatever he could to protect me and keep me safe. What happened after that? Asked Tenten. Well, after that we went to his place. We cooked dinner together and Naruto kept getting all touchy-feely and couldn't keep his hands to himself, which just made it all the more fun. After that, he pulled me onto his lap on the couch and we had a small make-out session. Ino said with a smile as she raised and dropped her eyebrows. Sounds like you two had quite the interesting night, Tenten said. It was a fun night. Nothing major happened except for the one moment where we were kissing, and after we stopped, I noticed his hand had moved down and was on my ass. But other than that, nothing happened. Naruto is a wonderful guy. He cares about me, always listens when I need him to, and is always doing something to make me happy. After hearing that, Hinata fainted on the spot and her head fell on the table with a small thud. The other 2 were jealous as could be. They were both wishing that the guy they loved would do something like that with them. Well damn, if you two keep things up like that, who knows what will happen next? Tenten said with a laugh. Ino got this far-off look in her eyes and started drooling again. Sakura and Tenten both started laughing while trying to get Ino back to reality. Approximately 96 tilde. Ino had left Sakura's place about an hour ago and was now sitting at the park. She was spaced out thinking of her boyfriend and hoping he would be home soon. She was so spaced out she didn't notice the boy walking towards her until he sat down next to her, causing her to jump. She looked over and rolled her eyes at who she saw. What do you want, Uchiha? She spat out. No reason to get so aggressive. Just wanted to talk for a minute, replied Sasuke. Well, like I said, what do you want? She asked once again. I want you to go out with me, he stated plainly. Ino started to laugh. Why would I go out with you? I have someone a lot better than some stuck-up Uchiha prick, Ino told him while still laughing. Sasuke was mad now. There isn't anyone around that is better than me. The Uchiha are the strongest clan in the world. Who is this person you think is better than me? Well, for one, I don't think he is better than you. I know he is. And for two, you already know who he is, Ino said with a smirk. The only one that I can think of that would even remotely stand a chance against me is that Hyuga brat, Sasuke said through gritted teeth. Nope, not Neji. Try again, Ino said. I don't have time for your games, woman. Tell me who the hell this person is and I will beat the shit out of him right now, Sasuke said, his anger now boiling over. You Uchihas really aren't that bright, are you? Fine, since I have to spell it out for you, it is Naruto. You think that loser is better than me? Sasuke asked. No, like I said, I know he is better than you. He beat Neji twice and he beat the sand demon that completely mopped the floor with your ass. Now I don't want to go out with you, so just screw off and leave me alone, Ino said as she got up and left a fuming Sasuke sitting on the bench. Approximately 96 tilde. In the small town of Tanzuka, Naruto and Jiraiya were walking through the streets. Naruto was reading the scroll he had gotten from Kaneko. He was comparing what the scroll and written on it with what Jiraiya had told him. When Jiraiya had learned that Naruto knew who his parents were, he had told Naruto that he would teach him the Rasengan. Naruto was surprised to learn that Jiraiya was his dad's sensei. Jiraiya stopped walking and looked in a restaurant door. He motioned for Naruto to follow and they went inside. Once inside, Jiraiya saw who he was looking for and went over and sat down opposite from her with Naruto right beside him. Tsunade and Shizune were shocked to see Jiraiya. They didn't pay much attention to the young boy. It's been a while since we last met Jiraiya. What brings you here? Tsunade asked as she sipped from her sake cup. I will get straight to the point, Tsunade. Sarutobi-sensei is dead. The village wants you to be the 5th Hokage. Jiraiya stated calmly. Tsunade was shocked at the news a little. So the old man finally kicked the bucket, huh? No. Orochimaru attacked the village and he gave his life to protect it. You are the one they want as 5th Hokage. I don't want the job. If the old man died for that village, then he was a fool. No one in their right mind would want that job, Tsunade said. Naruto had been listening to the conversation. The third had been like a grandfather to him and he wasn't about to let anyone badmouth him. Especially right in front of him. Shut your fucking mouth, you old hag. The third Hokage loved the village and his job. He protected that village every day. You will not badmouth him or the Hidden Leaf village anywhere near me or I will kick your ass. I don't care if you are a woman or not, Naruto said as he jumped on the table and got in Tsunade's face. I would like to see you try, brat. If you want to, let's take this outside, Tsunade said as she got up and left. Naruto followed her out the door and stood opposite her in the street. He pulled a kunai from his seal and rushed at Tsunade, not thinking. She slapped his hand away and flicked him across the forehead and sent him flying. On the sidelines, Jiraiya and Shizune both winced and thought it was over until they saw Naruto standing. All three adults were surprised. I ain't done yet, you old hag, Naruto said, panting heavily. Why do you even bother, kid? Tsunade asked. I am going to become Hokage. Just like my father, the 4th Hokage, was. I will become Hokage, Naruto replied. Tsunade was frozen with shock. She saw her lover Dan and her little brother Nawaki in Naruto's face. She was also shocked to hear that the kid's father was the 4th Hokage. I will become Hokage one day. And no one will ever get away with bad-mouthing any of the previous ones in front of me, Naruto told her as he began to charge up a Rasengan. He rushed at her and Tsunade punched the ground, causing it to split open. Naruto tripped and fell forward as his Rasengan disappeared. He smacked the ground with a loud thud. Why would you teach him a jutsu that he can't even control? Tsunade asked Jiraiya. Naruto got up and yelled and Tsunade. I can control it, just you watch me. Let's make a bet then. If you can manage to master the Rasengan in 3 days, I will return to the village and even throw in my necklace. It belonged to the 1st Hokage, my grandfather. If you fail, then you and Jiraiya will leave here without me and I get all the money in your little froggy here, Tsunade said as she held up his frog wallet. It's a deal, Ba-chan, Naruto yelled, then grabbed his head as pain shot through it. Shizune rushed over and started to heal his head where Tsunade had flicked him. Man, she hits hard. Thanks. What is her deal with the Hokage position anyway? He asked as Shizune finished healing him. She had 2 important people in her life who wanted to be Hokage as well. The first was her little brother Nawaki. He died at a young age. He was like a brother to me as well. The second was my uncle Dan. He died during the Second Shinobi War. You remind us of them greatly. She is probably just a little upset, just let her cool down, Shizune explained to him. Well, I have to go train. Let the pervy sage know I will be back later. Thanks again for the healing, Shizune, Naruto called over his shoulder as he ran off. I need to find a place to train. She is coming back to the village with us one way or another, Naruto thought as she rushed off. Naruto, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune were walking on the outskirts of Tanzuka town. They were looking for a place for Naruto to show them if he was able to master the Rasengan over the last 3 days. They found a wide open clearing about a mile from the village. Naruto started to show them his Rasengan but never got the chance as a giant snake poofed into existence. The group of 4 jumped out of the way as the tail of the snake slammed down right where they were a few seconds before. On the top of the snake's head was Orochimaru and Kabuto. What do you want, Orochimaru? Jiraiya growled. Calm down, Jiraiya. I am only here to talk to Tsunade about healing my arms, Orochimaru replied with a grin. What do you need me to heal your arms for? You have your little pet with you, have him do it. I refuse, Tsunade told them. Orochimaru nodded to Kabuto, who jumped off the head of Snake and landed between Jiraiya and the other 3. Jiraiya started to attack Kabuto but had to dodge the tail of the snake. Now Jiraiya, let Kabuto have some fun. You will fight me, Orochimaru hissed. Why would I waste my time on someone who won't even be a good fight? You can't even use jutsu. Jiraiya replied as he summoned Gamabunta. Gamabunta here could crush you himself. Then try it. Go Manda. With that, the snake launched at the toad and Jiraiya, causing them to jump back farther away from his comrades. We need to take out that stupid snake, Jiraiya, Bunta said around his pipe. Jiraiya ran through a few hand signs as he leapt off of the toad's head. When he hit the ground he slammed his hands down shouting, "Earth style! Swamp of the underworld!" as the snake was swallowed by a massive swamp. He then jumped back up on Bunta's head. You ready? He asked the toad, finishing his new set of hand signs. Do it, was all the toad said as he began to shoot a stream of oil from his mouth. Fire style! Fire blowing, he shouted as a stream of fire was blown from his mouth. The fire ignited the oil as it flew through the air and caught the snake on fire. Orochimaru just barely avoided the blast before his snake was incinerated and went back to his world. Orochimaru opened his mouth as a snake came from it. The snake spit out the Kisangani blade and caught it in his teeth. Jiraiya pulled a kunai from his pouch as he rushed his former teammate. Approximately 96 tilde. Over on the other side of the clearing, Shizune and Naruto were facing off against Kabuto. He knew of Tsunade's fear of blood. The moment the fight started, he cut his hand and threw blood on her, taking her out of the fight. Shizune wasn't having much luck at attacking Kabuto as they were both medic ninja and were just countering what the other was throwing. Shizune got caught off guard and Kabuto connected with a punch to her jaw. Kabuto was satisfied with his work. He had made it to where Tsunade couldn't fight. The blonde had rushed him in anger and that made for an easy dispatch as well. The Sanin's apprentice had caused him the most trouble. Will you change your mind now, Lady Tsunade? Kabuto asked with an evil grin. Tsunade just sat there, frozen with fear at the sight of blood. Her mind was screaming for her to move, but her body wouldn't respond. Just knock her out, Kabuto. We will take her with us. Orochimaru shouted while trading blows with Jiraiya. Kabuto rushed at Tsunade. He didn't realize he still had his kunai out. His kunai hit flesh and sliced right through to the other side. Looking up he saw that the kunai had been stopped by Naruto. The kunai was directly through the middle of his hand and he had grasped Kabuto's hand. You ain't taking her anywhere. Not as long as I am still breathing. Naruto growled out. I can easily change that. Kabuto responded as his hand started growing blue. He struck Naruto across the chest and a deep gash appeared and started gushing blood. Naruto winced at the pain but stood strong. Kabuto's eyes widened as his hand was crushed by Naruto's grip and he screamed out in pain. You had your chance. Now I'll make you leave, Naruto said as he charged up his Rasengan and planted into Kabuto's chest. Kabuto went flying and crashed into Orochimaru. Orochimaru knew that with his medic ninja down, he didn't stand chance against Jiraiya. Picking himself up and commanding Kabuto to do the same, they disappeared. Naruto fell backwards and hit the ground due to blood loss. Tsunade finally snapped out of her fear at seeing Naruto fall. She rushed over to him as her hands started glowing green. She began healing the wound across his chest and yelling at him to stay alive. She wasn't yelling out of anger. She was worried that she was gonna lose him. After about 5 minutes, Naruto reached up and grabbed the necklace she was wearing. I won't die until I become Hokage Ba-chan. I believe this is mine now, he said as he smiled up at her. She took the necklace off and placed it around his neck as she leaned down and kissed his forehead. Jiraiya came over and suggested they head back to the Tanzuka town and spend the night before leaving for the village, to which they all agreed. Approximately 96 tilde. Back in the Leaf Village, Ino and Anko were sitting in the shade of a large tree. They had been training since early morning without rest. More like Ino had been training, while Anko watched with an evil grin. They were currently taking a break for lunch. It had been silent between the two since lunch started. Wanting to break the silence, Anko decided to try and start a conversation. So Ino, how are things going with your blonde boy toy? Anko asked out of nowhere. Everything is going good, sensei, Ino said while still in thought. Sensei, can I ask you a question? Sure, ask anything you want and I will answer as best as I can, Anko told her. Well, I was wondering about relationships and intimacy. Ino said with a blush. A grin spread across Anko's face. She wants to know about the dirty deeds. Man, it would be fun to see the face on that little Gaki if I can corrupt his girlfriend, even a little. Anko thought before telling her to ask away. Well, the night before Naruto left, I spent the night with him. After we had dinner, we were sitting on the couch and I was on his lap. We started to kiss and it sort of turned into a make-out session. When we stopped, I noticed his hand was on my ass. Ino told her as she recalled the night at Naruto's. Anko just smiled at the young girl as she explained what happened. Can't believe she is getting some action so early into their relationship. Anko thought. I was just wondering if it was wrong for us to be doing that much or if it is wrong if I liked him rubbing my ass. She asked with an even deeper blush. Anko hit the ground laughing after Ino asked her the question. After a few minutes of laughing, she sat up apologizing for the laughter fit. I'm sorry, Ino. You are just too cute, you know that. There is nothing wrong with liking your ass being rubbed. I enjoy a good spanking now and then. Anko laughed as Ino started choking on her food. You would only have went too far if it felt wrong to you. Anko pointed at Ino's headband. That right there makes you as much of an adult as anyone else who wears one. If you want to be intimate with your boyfriend, then go for it as much as you two want to. Anko leans a little closer to Ino and asks, I take it you haven't gotten into his pants yet then? Ino's face went dark red as she lowered her head, shaking it. So it's fine if I want a little more from him and want him to touch me a little more? Anko pulls Ino into a hug and rubs her cheek against Ino's. You are just too cute. It is normal to want more from your boyfriend. You are young and you have a good boy, right? Ino nods while saying, he is the best I could ever ask for. Anko nods at Ino's answer while saying, there is no problem with you two expressing your love and passion for each other. Your lives as ninja are much too short to live with regrets, so enjoy it while you can. An evil smile spreads across Anko's face as she leans in to whisper in Ino's ear. You know, with him having so much stamina, just imagine what he is like in the bedroom. Ino gets a far-off look in her eyes as she ponders what Anko just told her. She licks her lips as the same smile Anko has spreads across her face. Anko notices the change in Ino and wraps an arm around the girl's shoulder. I have plenty of tips that can make your little foxboy your new plaything. Here, take this and read over it. Just don't let anyone seeing you read it, okay? She said as she pulled an orange book from her coat pocket. Ino knew what the book was from being around Kakashi so much. He always had his face in a book like this, but she never knew why he liked it so much. Taking the book, she gave Anko a confused look. Anko just smiled. Read the book and you will get some ideas on what I am talking about. Go ahead and head home. Training is over with for now. I will see you tomorrow. With that, Anko disappeared. Ino looked down at the book in her hand as a small grin appeared on her face. She got up and headed to Naruto's apartment so she could have a few hours alone. She couldn't wait for him to get home.